Chapter 491. The light boat carried the two of them and flew in the inner world for several days. The two talents reached the position on the inner world map. Arrive. Ran Lingxi said excitedly, "Look, there is Tianzuan City." Looking in the direction of Ran Lingxi's finger, Qin Daoxian seemed to see an ancient fairy city standing in the void. Although in his eyes, this immortal city is only a very small point, but Qin Daoxian knows that it is because Tianzuan City is still too far away from the two of them. In fact, Tianzuan City, as the largest main city of the human race, is hundreds of times the size of a heavy acropolis like Yaoguang City. If Qin Daoxian watched it up close, he would definitely be shocked by the majesty of Tianzuan City. Any monk who has seen Tianzuan City has admitted that this is the most majestic fairy city they have ever seen. Qin Daoxian glanced at it, then immediately retracted his gaze and said, "Tianzunqing will visit in the future. Let's finish the business first." Yes, first move the Shenhuang realm. Speaking of which, I have never seen what the Shenhuang realm looks like. Qin Daoxian, don't you suggest me to visit the Shenhuang realm soon? Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded. Fairy Lingxi is free. Okay, let's make a deal. After that, Ran Lingxi stood quietly and stopped disturbing Qin Daoxian Shirwei. Moving the world is a big deal for the fifth layer Daojun of the world realm. Although the fifth layer Daojun of the world realm already has the ability to move the world he has opened up, compared to the creation realm Daojun and the tribulation monk, this ability must be far from it. Not to mention the Daojun of creation realm, the cultivator of tribulation transcendence can even close the heavenly venerate realm he opened up in the palm of his hand, or even in his body, truly achieving the level of the world in the palm of his hand. This kind of ability Qin Daoxian at this time can never match. At first glance, this ability seems to be somewhat similar to the origin of the world demon, but in fact the two are not at all confused. The world demon's control over the world within the body is far less flexible than the cultivator's control over the world he opens up. Since the world realm cultivator opened up the world for the first time, his follow-up practice is aimed at expanding and controlling the world he has opened up at a deeper level. Therefore, when it comes to controlling the world demon is relatively more superficial. This is also the reason why the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate appears in the human race to be comparable to the true immortal level world demon in combat power. Since the human race could not break through to the Mahayana true immortal, their exploration of the battle strength during the tribulation period for hundreds of thousands of years has almost reached the pinnacle. All the means that can enhance the combat power of the monks during the tribulation period, the Terran heavenly venerate has tried. Among these means, controlling the heavenly venerate realm in a more subtle way is one of the most important means. Inner void. Qin Daoxian closed his eyes. He was carefully sensing Xuanhuangji. As the world he opened up, Xuanhuangji has a very close connection with Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian just tried to contact him a little, and he instantly sensed its existence. But this is only the first step. What he has to do next is the most important. Because next, Qin Daoxian will send the entire Shenhuang realm in the endless void of the location. Qin Daoxian tried to teleport objects and monks, but it was the first time for him to teleport an entire world. Of course, to transmit such a huge world, Qin Daoxian certainly couldn't completely rely on the mana in his Dantian Qi, he must rely on the power of Shenhuang realm. As Qin Daoxian sensed Xuanhuangji, he immediately controlled the fusion of mana and the power of the world in Xuanhuangji. This step is already familiar to him. When he first broke through the Yuanshan stage, he was able to integrate his own mana with the power of the world of the Shenhuang realm. When the mana in his Dantian Qi was deeply combined with the power of the world in Xuanhuangji, Qin Daoxian's thoughts moved, and an incomparably huge celestial black hole appeared in front of him. Seeing this celestial black hole, Ran Lingxi not only widened her eyes, but also opened her mouth involuntarily. "Get back!" Qin Daoxian exclaimed. Hearing this, Ran Lingxi ran away frantically with the escape light without saying a word. Seeing Ran Lingxi flying far away, Qin Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief. Immediately afterwards, he held his breath and seemed to want to drag out the object, in the black hole celestial body. Dantian gas in the sea. Qin Daoxian's mana was consumed crazily, but because his mana was deeply combined with the power of the world in Shenhuang realm, his mana was madly replenished while being consumed madly. Gradually, a glowing spherical silhouette poking out of a black hole celestial body. Qin Daoxian was greatly encouraged by seeing the familiar Shenhuang realm, so he continued to frantically consume mana and drag this huge world. So, Qin Daoxian moved the huge movement of Shenhuang realm, which attracted many monks to check. But everyone saw that Qin Daoxian was the 5th level Taoist in the world, and he did not dare to approach, but only dared to watch from a distance. Of course, The very distant place where they are, for Qin Daoxian, it is only within the range of divine consciousness, so he doesn't care at all. Regardless of whether Qin Daoxian came into contact with Tianzuan in Tianzan's mansion, he was the Daojun of the creation realm. In fact, even in the inner world, the most monks were the bottom-level monks. It's just that low-level monks like the Qi refining period and the foundation building period cannot leave the world they are in. Most of these low-level cultivators live and practice in the major worlds of Heavenly Venerate and Guangyuan realm, and only a very small number of them practice in the world of Daojun of creation realm. In any case, they cannot enter the void of the inner domain. If you want to leave the world you are in and step into the void, you must reach the nascent soul stage at the lowest level. Therefore, the monks who watched Qin Daoxian move the Shenhuang realm at this time were mostly in the Yuanning period and the first and second floor Taoists in the world realm. However, as time passed, monks with higher cultivation gradually came over. For example, Qin Daoxian noticed that there were 3 Daojins on the 5th floor of the world realm, who were rushing towards here in a light boat. But he just glanced at it with his divine sense and ignored it. As long as it doesn't affect him moving the Shenhuang realm, he will ignore it. Anyway, his worm soldiers have long been waiting for him. If there is any monk who can't open his eyes, Qin Daoxian will not be soft at all. Speaking of which, Qin Daoxian is now considered a backer, not to mention ordinary Daojins. Even Daojins from top forces would not dare to sell Wuha Tianzan's face. You must know that once Wuha Tianzuan has passed the 8th Thunder Tribulation, he will be the main city Tianzuan. And the main city Tianzuan is already the top existence of the human race. Don't look at Ini Tianzan's powerful combat power. He can fight back and forth with the real immortal level world demon, but in terms of strength he is not comparable to the main city Tianzuan. In the main city, the strength that the 8 tribulations Heavenly Venerate can burst out far exceeds that of ordinary true immortals. If it weren't for these 2 brushes, the human race would have been wiped out by the world monsters long ago, and it would have survived for hundreds of thousands of years. Inner Void. A Taoist on the 5th floor of the world realm noticed Ran Lingxi, and he teleported to Ran Lingxi's side and said, "This fairy is polite. I am a disciple of the Taiyin sect. I don't know where the fairy and this fellow Taoist are from." Ran Lingxi glanced at him, raised her little head and said, "Tianzuan Mountain." Hearing this, the Daojun on the 5th floor of the world realm changed dramatically, and he quickly cupped his hands and said, "It's disturbing, it's disturbing." After all, like seeing a ghost, he disappeared in place in an instant. The cultivators who were watching heard Ran Lingxi self-reporting her family, and saw that the 5th level Taoist of the world realm left, and some bad thoughts were extinguished in their hearts. Just kidding, the people of Tianzuan Mountain, they can't afford to offend. In other words, no force can provoke Tianzuan Mountain, even the top forces of the human race. The top forces of the human race only have a small part of the Heavenly Venerate, and the Heavenly Venerate Mountain is the residence of all the Heavenly Venerates of the human race. It and the Heavenly Venerate City can be said to be 2 sides of one body. At least on the bright side, it is the first force of the human race, and it is also the ruling force of the human race. Now, in the giant black hole, Xuanwangji has squeezed out most of the body. The monks' onlookers were even smaller than the dust in front of the Shenhuang interface. A new world. An unexplored world. Among the monks watching, some muttered to themselves with excited fire in their eyes. Don't look at the countless worlds in the inner realm. In fact, more than 99% of the worlds are worlds below the 3rd level of the world, and only less than 1% of the worlds are the Taoists above the 3rd level of the world. The world opened up. Among these worlds, the world of the world's 3-tier Taoist has little development value. The reason is very simple. Even the most senior world realm 3rd layer Daojun, the world he opens up is only 100,000 miles in diameter, and his spiritual energy is extremely thin. Although the world of the 3rd level Daojun of the world has a certain vitality, it is absolutely impossible for low-level monks to enter it for cultivation. The world of the 5th layer Daojun of the world realm is different. A world of this level, whether it is the spiritual energy environment or the internal living conditions, can already meet the cultivation needs of the monks in the Qi refining period and even the foundation building period. In addition, the newly born world is equal to the unmined world. For example, in Qin Daoxuan's Shenhuang realm, there are many rare and unmined spirits. These things are waiting for the first batch of monks to enter this world to mine. If Qin Daoxian is willing to open the Shenhuang realm to the outside world, I am afraid that it will not be long before the Shenhuang realm will be stepped over the threshold by the monks who come from the surrounding. Of course, Qin Daoxian is not short of resources, and he is not short of subordinates. For the time being, the Shenhuang realm will not be open to the outside world. Even if he wants to open the Shenhuang realm to the outside world, he will have to wait until he breaks through to the transcending tribulation period. However, this time does not seem to have to wait long. Finally, the Xinhuang realm with a diameter of more than 300,000 miles was pulled over by Qin Daoxian from the Void Passage. After this battle, Qin Daoxian could feel that the power of the world in Xinhuang realm was consumed by 70% to 80%. But considering that he was sending the whole world, his heart was relieved. The first time that Xinhuang Jia was delivered, Qin Daoxian waved his hand and moved Ran Lingxi in front of him, and then said to her, "Do you want to go in and have a look?" Ran Lingxi nodded in surprise. Qin Daoxian waved his hand again, and the figures of the two disappeared in front of everyone. The cultivators saw that the main lord had disappeared, and there was no liveliness to watch, so they gradually left in the light boat. No way, although this kind of behavior of moving the whole world is not common, it still happens from time to time in the inner domain, but it is very rare for everyone to see it with their own eyes. Everyone came to watch, and most of them were just watching the excitement. Now that there was no excitement to watch, they naturally chose to leave. Who knows how long Qin Daoxian will come out after entering the Xinhuang realm? They are not interested in waiting stupidly in the void. Even if a cultivator wanted to talk to Qin Daoxian about cooperation issues, he could only come back angrily. Xinhuang world. The first time Ran Lingxi entered the Xinhuang realm, she jumped up and down excitedly. In fact, there are only two worlds that Ran Lingxi has really been to. One is the world opened up by her mother, and the other is the world of Tianzuan opened by Wuha Tianzuan Wahiji. It's just that Wahiji, as the world opened up by Wuha Tianzuan, is too wide in scope. In Ran Lingxi's eyes, it is not much different from Guanji Wanji. Therefore there is only one small world that Ran Lingxi has really seen, and that is the world opened up by her biological mother, and Xinhuang realm is the second one. It's really a primitive landscape. Ran Lingxi turned around excitedly. "Have you not transformed your world? Would you like me to transform it for you?" Looking at Ran Lingxi's unreliable appearance, Qin Daoxian directly changed the subject and said, "By the way, when it comes to transforming the world, what does the Five Rivers realm look like?" Five Rivers realm? Ran Lingxi raised her mouth. Just like the Guangyuan realm, it is very large and there are many monks practicing in it. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded. The Guangyuan realm and the various heavenly venerate realms in the inner territory actually undertake the important task of cultivating the junior monks of the human race. From this point of view, the importance of a heavenly venerate is not only reflected in the fact that he is the defensive force of the human race, but also the logistics force of the human race. If the human race does not have the heavenly venerate realm, how weak the human race's reserve strength should be. But so far, Qin Daoxian has never been to any Tianzuan realm, even the Wuha realm of Wuha Tianzuan. Of course, even in the Five Rivers realm, the cultivation environment is definitely not comparable to the Tianzuan mansion on Tianzuan mountain. Qin Daoxian's trip to Wahiji has little meaning except for some experience. "You stay here for a while, I'm going to set up world coordinates." Hearing that Qin Daoxian was going to set the world coordinates, Ran Lingxi became quiet again and stopped talking. The establishment of world coordinates is for cultivators to use the world they open up for cross-border teleportation in the future. The reason why there is only one teleportation formation in Phoenix Meteor Realm and Liangjiyuan is because high-level Daojun does not need to take the teleportation formation to and from Liangjiyuan and Phoenix Meteor Realm. Of course, the high-ranking Daojun of Liangjiyuan rarely went to Fengyun Realm, unless it is a high-level Taoist who has a foundation in the Fengyun world. Seeing that Ran Lingxi was obedient and didn't interrupt, Qin Daoxian closed his eyes again, and he began to silently sense his clone on Jianghu Island in Fenjianji. Compared with sensing the Xinhuang realm, it is at least 1,000 or even 10,000 times more difficult to sense a clone across the border. But fortunately, Qin Daoxian's cultivation has been promoted to the level of the 5th layer Daojun in the world, and his sensing ability is vastly different than before. At the last moment, he sensed the black-robed clone he left on Jianghu Island. Phoenix Meteor World. Wangxinghai Jianghu Island. In a secret room, the monk in black robe suddenly opened his eyes, and the next moment, a void passage appeared, and Qin Daoxian, who was wearing a white robe, walked out of the void passage. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 492. Came back. Qin Daoxian looked at the familiar secret room in front of him, and there was a feeling of joy in his heart. So far, Qin Daoxian has been away from Wanxinghai for 7 years. 7 years was just a snap for a cultivator, but Qin Daoxian felt that it was extraordinarily long, because this was the first time in his life that he had been away from his hometown for such a long time. I don't know what happened to 13th uncle, Dao Lian, Dao Chu and Luo Li. When Qin Daoxian thought of Luo Li, a sense of guilt surged in his heart. This time he left Fengyun realm without even telling Luo Li. At this moment he wanted so much to see the girl who accompanied him from being weak to where he is today. Wally Luo Li. Qin Daoxian muttered, and the longing in his heart could no longer be restrained. Beside him, the black robe avatar turned into a black light, and got into Qin Daoxian's Dantian Qi Si. He waved his sleeves and the door of the secret room opened. Walking out of the cave where the black-robed clone was retreating, Qin Daoxian flew straight towards the center of Jianghu Island. Twin Lakes Island. The residence of the head of the Qin family. In a quiet and elegant courtyard, a thin woman was lying on the fence of the pavilion, staring blankly at the fish in Linghu Lake. She didn't realize that there was a person she was thinking about standing behind her. I don't know what happened to Qin Lang now. Luo Li muttered softly, her eyes filled with longing. Liar. Qin Daoxian called softly. What? Luo Li exclaimed, then turned her head suddenly. When she saw Qin Daoxian's familiar figure, she stood up suddenly, threw herself into his arms and sobbed softly. Sorry. Qin Daoxian hugged her hard and kissed her hair. You said you wouldn't leave me. Luo Li burst into tears. Sorry. Qin Daoxian didn't have the slightest excuse, he could only keep apologizing. Indeed, he had promised Luo Li that he would never leave her again in the future. It was he who broke his promise. He never broke his promise to anyone except Luo Li. He also knew that in this world, only by breaking her promise to her would she not really blame him, and only she would tolerate him time and time again. Luo Li was the most cherished person by Qin Daoxian. It took a long time for Luo Li to stop her tears. Qin Daoxian held her in his arms, and the two sat in the pavilion, snuggling together. You mean you and your concubine sister went to the battlefield outside Liangjiyuan? Qin Daoxian nodded. Now that he has passed the danger, there is no need to hide Luo Li anymore. Then, why didn't you tell me? As Luo Li spoke, tears rolled in her eyes again. Or do you think my low cultivation is just a burden? Of course not. Qin Daoxian's voice was high-pitched, but seeing Luo Li's sobbing appearance, he felt extremely distressed in an instant. I just don't want you to worry. But am willing to worry about you. Luo Li looked at him with tears in her eyes. I am your Taoist companion, and I have the right to know your safety. I have the right to know your safety better than anyone else. Seeing her appearance, Qin Daoxian felt guilty for the first time, and he assured, I swear this is the first and last time. Luo Li looked directly into Qin Daoxian's eyes, and after a long time she nodded slowly and said, I remember what you said, if you do such a dangerous thing without telling me next time, I will treat you as dead. It will self-destruct Jindan with you. Although Luo Li's words were in a flat tone, Qin Daoxian felt a chill in his heart. Because he knew very well that Luo Li was a woman who was soft on the outside and tough on the inside. Since she could say this, she would definitely do it. Qin Daoxian quickly took her into his arms. There will never be a second time, I promise. As if thinking of something, Qin Daoxian said again, by the way, I have now been promoted to the 5th floor of the world realm, and the Shenhuang realm has initially matured. Enough for cultivators below the Jindan stage to enter it for cultivation. Hearing this, Luo Li's eyes lit up slightly, and she instantly understood what Qin Daoxian meant. You mean let me go to Shenhuang realm? Qin Daoxian nodded, gently held her Ro-yi and said warmly, yes, so you can stay by my side forever. Okay, I'm willing to follow you to the Shenhuang realm. When are we leaving? Luo Li didn't even think about it and agreed on the spot. Seeing her so eager, Qin Daoxian took her little hand and said with a smile, don't worry, I'm not letting you go to the Shenhuang realm alone, I am going to arrange for the clan to enter the Shenhuang realm first. In the future, the Shenhuang realm will become the foundation of my Qin family, and you will protect this foundation for me. Do you have the confidence to do it? Luo Li nodded vigorously. If there is no accident, Qin Daoxian is very likely to be promoted to the Daojun of Creation realm and even the Transcendence period in a short period of time, and Shenhuang realm will also be officially promoted to Tianzuan realm. In the inner realm, which Tianzuan realm is not populated by a large number of monks. Although the Heavenly Venerate realm is incomparable with the Guangyuan realm and the Phoenix Meteor realm, the number of the Heavenly Venerate realm is very large, so the monks living in the Heavenly Venerate realm are not much less than the Guangyuan realm and the Phoenix Meteor realm. In fact, it is reasonable to say that with the territory resources of Fengyun world, it should be the world with the most monks. But Naiha Fengyun world is an abandoned world, and most of the resources in this world have been taken away by the human race. The little resources left are naturally not enough to support the huge number of monks. This is also the reason why the Fengyun realm has the widest territory, and the quality and quantity of the cultivators are not as good as those in the inner realm. Looking at Luo Li's expectant eyes, Qin Daoxian thought that he had marked the coordinates of Jianghu Island, so he smiled and said, "Would you like to go to Xianhuang realm?" Lori was a little excited. She had been to the Xianhuang realm, but the Xianhuang realm at that time was still a barren land, and there was nothing to see, so she simply looked at it and left. But this time is different. The world of the Xianhuang realm has a diameter of more than 300,000 miles. Such a huge world is very rare even if you look at all the world realms. Qin Daoxian knew that this had something to do with the beads in the core of the Xianhuang realm in the depths. Otherwise, only relying on the power of good fortune to irrigate, it is absolutely impossible to expand the Xianhuang realm to this level when he is at the 5th level of the world realm. Walk. Facing Luo Li's expectant eyes, Qin Daoxian took her hand, and the figures of the two instantly disappeared in place. Next moment, the figures of the two have appeared in a new world, which is the Xianhuang realm. Luo Li looked around and saw that the Xianhuang realm was very different from before. The biggest difference is that in the past, the Xianhuang realm was full of desert land, not to mention green vegetation and animals, and even water sources could not be seen. But now the Xianhuang realm is not only rich in spiritual energy, but also has everything in the fairy mountains, spiritual islands, lakes and oceans. Not only that, there are various animals living and multiplying in the Xianhuang world. It's just that the spirituality of these animals is extremely low, and most of them can only act by instinct, far from being comparable to the human race. It's beautiful here. Luo Li excitedly said, "I feel a lot more relaxed here." Qin Daoxian of course knew why Luo Li felt this way. As the Phoenix Meteor realm is constantly being swallowed up by the true demon realm, the world will of the Phoenix Meteor realm will become more and more crazy and desperate. When it reflects in the real world, everyone will feel that the breath of the Phoenix Meteor realm is extremely depressing. On the other hand, the Xianhuang realm is a new world, and it is full of hope and vitality. Luo Li will feel relaxed, which is a normal reaction. It's just that Luo Li is not clear about this, and Qin Daoxian himself learned about it from Wuha Tianzuan. When he went to Guangyuan realm he had this feeling. The first impression Guangyuan realm gave him was that it was very peaceful, not as oppressive as Fengyun realm. Although the cultivators who have lived in the Phoenix realm for a long time cannot feel the depression, it is because they have adapted to the depressing environment. In fact, the long-term repressed environment also had a certain impact on the monks. For example, most of the monks in Fengyun realm are narrow-minded and cruel, but they are greedy for life and fear of death. A large part of these personalities are influenced by the environment of the Phoenix Meteor world, or by the will of the Phoenix Meteor world, which is another important reason for the human race to abandon the Phoenix Meteor world. After flying recklessly in the Xianhuang realm, Qin Daoxian took Luo Li's little hand and said, "Go, it'll take you to meet someone." "To see people?" Luo Li looked a little puzzled. Qin Daoxian smiled and said nothing. The figures of the two disappeared instantly, and the next moment Qin Daoxian and Luo Li suddenly appeared in front of Ran Lingxi. Ran Lingxi was shocked when she saw that there was someone suddenly beside Qin Daoxian. "Yeah, didn't you go to anchor the world coordinates? Why did you bring a beautiful woman back?" Ran Lingxi looked at Luo Li curiously and said to Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian ignored her and introduced them to the two. "This is the daughter of Wuha Tianzuan, Fairy Ran Lingxi. She is my Taoist companion, Luo Li." Only then did Luo Li know that the true monarch Yuan Ying in front of her was actually the daughter of Heavenly Venerate, and her personality looked like a child's. Of course, no matter how she looks like a child, she is still the daughter of Tianzuan, not to mention that Ran Lingxi's cultivation is higher than hers. Luo Li hurriedly greeted her and said, "I have seen Fairy Lingxi." "Ah, you are Qin Daoxian's Dao companion? But why is your cultivation level so low? You are only in the late Jindan stage." Ran Lingxi ignored Luo Li's embarrassed expression and said to herself, "You two are like my father and mother, and my mother's cultivation is much lower than my father's." Hearing this, Luo Li realized that this Heavenly Venerate's daughter did not mean to embarrass people, but was really heartless. In dealing with children, Luo Li is more experienced than Qin Daoxian. When she was free in the Qin family, she often went to the Qin family's clan to teach the descendants of the Qin family. Speaking of which, Luo Li was considered a senior teacher. Sure enough, under Luo Li's words, Ran Lingxi quickly became warm with her. "Sister Luo Li, you are much more interesting than Qin Daoxian. Unlike him, who only knows how to retreat, you left me alone for several months." Ran Lingxi poured bitter water on Luo Li. Qin Daoxian, who was beside him, smiled and did not speak. Qin Daoxian let Luo Li and Ran Lingxi get to know each other, and naturally he had his plans. That's right, he took a fancy to the cultivation environment of Tianzhen's mansion and wanted Luo Li to go there too. It has to be said that although Luo Li has no shortage of resources, her talent is somewhat lacking. Qin Daoxian can also get some treasures that improve his cultivation, such as Saint Yuandan and other treasures. But treasures that enhance the realm of the Great Tao are relatively rare. Qin Daoxian couldn't preach to Luo Li all the time, it was unrealistic. But compared to his preaching, Qin Daoxian found a better place, that is the abyss of Tianzhen's mansion. Qin Daoxian has practiced in the abyss for 6 years, and with the blessing of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, the progress of the Tao Law can be described as rapid, which is also the skyrocketing that the Shenhuang realm can rapidly expand. If the law of the Great Way is bone, then the expanding world is flesh and blood. Without bones, flesh and blood is duckweed without roots, and even if the world expands, it will collapse sooner or later. Seeing that Luo Li and Ran Lingxi are getting to know each other more and more, Qin Daoxian smiled and said, "Okay, we should go back too." What dash? When Ran Lingxi heard that she was going to go home, her face was pulled down. But she knew that Qin Daoxian would not be used to her. Unable to resist, he could only look at Luo Li, who had just met with help. Although Luo Li didn't know Qin Daoxian's plan, but she would not go against his decision, she spoke to comfort. "You have been out for so long, Wuha Tianzuan must also be worried. As for coming out to play, there will be opportunities in the future." Saying that, she glanced at Qin Daoxian and smiled. "Even if other people don't accompany you to play, there is still me." "Are you serious?" Ran Lingxi's face was full of excitement. "Then let's make a promise." Immediately she remembered something and frowned. "No, we don't live together anymore. How can you play with me, Sister Luo Li, or you can come to my house as a guest?" Saying that, Ran Lingxi looked at her with expectant eyes. At this moment, Luo Li roughly understood what Qin Daoxian meant, and she couldn't help looking at Qin Daoxian, waiting for him to make a decision. Ran Lingxi also saw that Luo Li seemed to listen to Qin Daoxian's words very much, so she looked at Qin Daoxian with pleading eyes. Qin Daoxian smiled and said, Yes, Tianzuan Mansion is an excellent place to practice, but am worried that it will bring inconvenience to Lingzuan and Lingtang." "No inconvenience." Ran Lingxi patted her little chest loudly. "I have the final say in my family." "Okay, then let's go back together." Qin Daoxian nodded. Luo Li's cultivation was too low, he had to help her to improve her cultivation quickly. It is a pity that the abyss of Tianzuan Mountain can only be found in Tianzuan Mansion. And according to Qin Daoxian's knowledge, the more you get to the top of Tianzuan Mountain, the stronger the Taoism that escapes from the abyss. In other words, the abyss of Wuha Tianzuan Mansion is already the top cultivation treasure of the human race. In normal times, Qin Daoxian would not have the qualifications to come into contact with this treasured cultivation place. After everything was negotiated, Ran Lingxi's mood rose again. "Okay, let's go home." Qin Daoxian smiled, waved his sleeves, and the three suddenly left the Shenhuang realm. In the inner void, Luo Li was completely shocked by the scene in front of her. "It's beautiful here." Qin Daoxian turned his head. "Does it look like Wanxinghai?" Thinking of his hometown, Luo Li smiled and nodded, "Like?" Qin Daoxian gently shook her little hand, took the two of her on a light boat, and flew towards Guangyuan realm. Only Shenhuang realm is left, and together with countless worlds, it floats quietly in the inner domain. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 493, Guangyuan Realm. Finally back. Ran Lingxi took a deep breath, stretched her arms and said intoxicated. On the side, Qin Daoxian turned his head to Luo Li and said, "You will visit Wuha Tianzuan with me later." "Well, listen to you." Lori nodded. Immediately, Qin Daoxian looked at Ran Lingxi and said with a smile, "You also come with us." Ran Lingxi rolled her eyes slightly, smiled and nodded, "Okay." After a cup of tea, the three came together to stand outside the cave where Wuha Tianzuan retreated. "Junior Qin Daoxian, I have something to ask Tianzuan." "Come in." Inside the cave, a majestic voice came out. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian and the three walked into the cave side by side. The furnishings in the cave are very simple, and it is completely impossible to see that this is the residence of a top human race, but it looks like a low-level monk. But the moment Qin Daoxian entered the cave, he felt a different kind of breath. This is pure yang. Qin Daoxian was shocked. In his impression, only by breaking through to the realm of Mahayana true immortal, will mana be completely transformed into pure yang immortal. Of course, in addition to this, there will also be pure yang aura on the pure yang fairy, but this aura is not like the pure yang fairy emanates, but more like pure yang fairy power. Seeing Qin Daoxuan's doubts, Wu Tianzuan, who was sitting cross-legged in front of him, said slowly, "Every time a tribulation cultivator passes through a thunder tribulation, his mana will be transformed once, and this transformation process is the transformation of mana into pure yang immortal power. Change. Most of the reasons why Mahayana true immortals are so strong in transitioning to heaven-smiting venerable are because of this. The power attributes of the two are already fundamentally different." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian suddenly made a big mistake, and he hurriedly bowed his hands to Wu Tianzuan. "Thank you Tianzuan for clarifying the confusion." Wu Tianzuan nodded slightly. These things are the basic common sense of tribulation monks, but for monks from a small place like Qin Daoxian, they are indeed top secrets. Immediately, Wu Tianzuan looked at Luoli with a smile and said, "You came to me, isn't it just for this?" "Heavenly honored Mingjian," Qin Daoxian introduced directly, "this is my Taoist companion Luoli. I want to use the land of the abyss to help him break through his cultivation base, and I also ask Heavenly Venerate to fulfill him." After thinking about it, Qin Daoxian decided to confess to Wu Tianzuan. After all, he doesn't know how precious the land of the abyss is, and rashly rubs against other people's treasures on the grounds of being a guest. If it makes Wu Tianzuan unhappy, it will not be beautiful. Who knows that Wu Tianzuan has not replied yet? Ran Lingxi, who is on the side, helps. "Dad, you promised to let Sister Luoli go to the abyss to cultivate, otherwise Sister Luoli will be like her mother in the future, and her cultivation will be poor. You are far, far away." Ran Lingxi's words completely moved Wu Tianzuan. I saw him nodded and said, "There is no problem in asking your Tao companion to practice in the abyss, but there is a certain amount of Taoism scattered in the abyss. If you give her more you will have less. So, do you still have the confidence to break through the creation realm and get my recommendation in less than 6 years?" Wu Tianzuan looked at him intently. "You know, this time is your chance to reach the sky in one step. If you want the next place you have to wait another 1,000 years. Hearing this, Luoli immediately shook his head. "Tianzuan, I don't want to go to the abyss to practice. Please give this opportunity to my husband." Saying that, Luoli bowed and knelt down to him. Wu Tianzuan waved his hand. Even though Luoli felt that he couldn't kneel down, he had to keep shaking his head at Qin Daoxian. Aside, Qin Daoxian took a deep breath and said solemnly, "Even if I lose this opportunity, I don't regret it." "Really? Really?" Qin Daoxian nodded seriously. "Forget it, take your Taoist companion there." Wu Tianzuan waved his hand, then closed his eyes. Luoli was anxious, but was directly ignored by Qin Daoxian. He bowed to Wu Tianzuan again. "In this case, the junior will not bother and leave." Having said that, Qin Daoxian took Luoli's little hand and left the cave of Wu Tianzuan. Inside the cave, Ran Lingxi looked at Wu Tianzuan curiously and said curiously, "Dad, why are you lying to him? Our place in the abyss can obviously supply up to 5 people at the same time." Wu Tianzuan patted her on the forehead and said with a smile, "Your father has to see if the way I found for your mother and daughter is so reliable." "Dad, what's the way back?" Wu Tianzuan smiled without saying a word, but there was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. Except for Tianzuan Cave. Luoli was very angry and shook off Qin Daoxuan's big hand. "Why do you have to decide for me? Tianzuan has already said you obviously have a chance to get this quota to break through the tribulation period. Why should you give up?" Qin Daoxian shook his head and looked at her in surprise. "When did I say I would give up?" "Then you just..." Qin Daoxian gently embraced her slender waist and whispered, "Don't worry, I'm 100% sure." "You didn't lie to me?" Luoli looked at Qin Daoxian with suspicious eyes. "When did I cheat?" As soon as Qin Daoxian said these words, he felt a little guilty and quickly changed his words. "Don't worry, I will never lie to you this time." After speaking, he looked at Luoli seriously. After carefully looking at Qin Daoxian and making sure that the other party did not deceive him, Luoli nodded. "If you lied to me this time, I will ignore you in the future." "Absolutely not," Qin Daoxian said with a smile. In fact, the land of the abyss is a holy place for other monks to understand the Tao, but for Qin Daoxian, it is really a tasteless place. He has the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, which theoretically can improve his understanding infinitely. As long as there are enough Jiuan beads, there is no need for an abyss. But Luoli didn't know this, and he was afraid that he would let Qin Daoxian miss the opportunity to quickly break through the tribulation period, so it was not surprising. The land of the abyss. Qin Daoxian sat cross-legged, while Luo Li sat beside him. At this moment, Luo Li had taken the Saint Yuan pill that Qin Daoxian had purchased for her from Chuanbao Pavilion. In Tianzuan Mansion, countless auras gathered towards the abyss. Guangyuan realm and Fengyuan realm are different. In the Guangyuan realm, there is no such thing as a spiritual vein, and the spiritual energy is almost evenly distributed throughout the Guangyuan realm. Compared with the spiritual energy of Fengyuan realm, which is occupied by major cultivation forces, Guangyuan realm is the real cultivation holy place. Seeing that Luo Li was submerged by the light beam of spiritual energy, Qin Daoxian closed his eyes with peace of mind and began to understand the mystery of the origin of spirituality. This time he has already found the way to break through to the creation realm. The only thing to do is to use divine consciousness to continuously investigate the spiritual origins of other cultivators in the creation realm, and then create their own spirituality, so as to truly create a new spiritual life for the Xianhuang realm. Time passed little by little. Qin Daoxian was accompanied by Luo Li, and it was extremely comfortable to practice. This kind of life is like returning to the sea of consciousness where his cultivation base was still low. It was like now he and Luo Li often accompany each other to practice, but at that time the window paper between him and Luo Li hadn't been opened. In addition, Luo Li has not yet transformed, although Qin Daoxian has a good impression of Luo Li, a merman woman, but he did not show it. It was not until Luo Li took the initiative to reveal his feelings that the two came together completely. Now Qin Daoxian was tired from practicing, so he looked at Luo Li's beautiful profile to relieve his mood. Sometimes Luo Li felt something in her heart, and she blushed when he stared at him and even hit him with anger. With the help of Abyss Land and Xing Yuan Dan, Luo Li's cultivation has also been improved rapidly. In less than half a year, her cultivation level has been upgraded from the early stage of Jin Dan to the later stage of Jin Dan. The next step is to break through to the nascent soul stage. Since Luo Li is a merman, her physical body has been strengthened along with her cultivation, so she doesn't have to go out of her way to practice body exercises. Therefore she only needs to directly break through the nascent soul stage. Qin Daoxian saw that Luo Li was a little nervous, so he comforted him with a warm voice on the side. Don't worry, with the help of Abyss Land and Saint Yuan Dan, it is only a matter of course for you to break through the nascent soul stage. Besides, your Dao realm has also broken through to the Law realm, which is the Dao realm at the nascent soul level. Don't worry. Looking at the most important person in her life beside her, Luo Li finally stopped worrying. With the person she loves by her side, even if she died at this moment, Luo Li felt that she had no regrets, not to mention the danger of breaking through the nascent soul stage. On the side, although Qin Daoxian offered words of comfort, he was also a little nervous in his heart. Although Luo Li's foundation has been laid very firmly, the way of cultivation is not fully grasped. Otherwise, the path of cultivation will not be called a path against the sky. Watching Luo Li break through the Yuan Ying stage by seclusion, Qin Daoxian simply stopped his own practice, quietly watched Luo Li break through and protected the law for her. With Qin Daoxian's current cultivation level, even if Luo Li fails to break through, he can still protect her life. This is the true meaning of a high-level cultivator. Soon 3 months passed. Qin Daoxian felt that the aura in the attention of the spiritual energy was getting stronger and stronger, and his heart also pounded. Finally, the aura light beam slowly dissipated, revealing the shadow inside. Looking at Luo Li's safe and sound appearance, Qin Daoxian teased, "Congratulations to the lady for breaking through the nascent soul stage." Hearing this, Luo Li blushed pretty and gave him a white look. Knowing this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but feel a little warm in his heart. It seems that they also touched Qin Daoxian's fiery eyes and Luo Li's pretty face turned even redder, but both of them knew whose dojo this place was, and they didn't dare to really be presumptuous here. After thinking for a while, Qin Daoxian whispered something in Luo Li's ear. Luo Li blushed immediately but nodded slightly. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian took her hand, and the two of them were about to fly out of the Tianzuan mansion with a flash of light. By Chinese website who knew that Ran Lingxi happened to be looking for it. "Where are you going?" When the two heard this, it was as if they were about to do something bad, but they were suddenly caught, which was very embarrassing. Especially Luo Li, her entire face was flushed with blush. Seeing that Luo Li didn't speak, Ran Lingxi looked at Qin Daoxian curiously and continued to ask, "Are you going out?" Immediately, she discovered Luo Li's cultivation base again, and her eyes lit up. "I see." It turns out that it was Sister Luo Li's cultivation base that broke through. "You want to take her out to celebrate?" So, Ran Lingxi immediately raised her little hand, take me one, and I'll go too." Qin Daoxian opened his mouth weakly, sat down with his knees crossed and said dumbly, "I'm not going, you all go." Hearing this, Luo Li covered her mouth with a puff and laughed. Seeing Luo Li's appearance, Ran Lingxi glanced at Luo Li and then at Qin Daoxian, as if she understood something. Her face flushed red. Immediately, without saying a word, she disappeared in front of them in a flash. Seeing Ran Lingxi leave, Qin Daoxian stood up again, took Luo Li's hand and flew out of Tianzhen's mansion. "Hey, slow down." Luo Li blushed. After leaving Tianzhuan mansion, Luo Li blushed and asked, "Where are we going now?" Qin Daoxian smiled mysteriously, took her hand, and the two disappeared on Tianzhuan mountain. Next moment, when Luo Li came back to his senses, the two were already in the Xianhuang realm. When he came to Xianhuang realm again, Luo Li reacted immediately and hurriedly said, "Why did you bring me here?" "Don't worry, I have marked the world coordinates of Tianzhuan mountain. After a while, you can directly transfer the world through the Xianhuang realm." Hearing this, Luo Li was relieved. The three of them had been on the light boat for more than a month before they rushed from the Xianhuang realm to the Guangyuan realm. Thinking of this, Luo Li sighed sincerely. A high level of cultivation is convenient. After hearing this, Qin Daoxian smiled wickedly, reached out to stop her and said, "There is something more convenient." "What?" Lori screamed. Immediately, a spherical space cage enveloped the two figures. The next day, Luo Li's hair was loose, her pretty face flushed red, and she gently served Qin Daoxian to get dressed. The space cage dissipated, and the two figures were revealed again. At this moment, Qin Daoxian only felt refreshed and all the pressure dissipated. The way of yin and yang deserves to be one of the avenues. Qin Daoxian grinned, really refreshed. When Luo Li heard this, he was so angry that he hammered him hard. But Qin Daoxian had rough skin and thick flesh and didn't care at all, instead he giggled. Seeing this, Luo Li was helpless, blushed and turned his head away without speaking. Qin Daoxian also knew that Luo Li was thin-skinned, so he stopped laughing but said sternly, "Liar, you must consolidate your cultivation here first, and I will complete the shaping of the spiritual source today. Are you going to succeed?" Luo Li's eyes lit up, her excited expression was even happier than her own breakthrough to the nascent soul stage. "I have a hunch to create spirituality right now. The whim of a monk is usually quite accurate the more advanced the monk is. This is also one of the reasons why high-level monks are difficult to deal with. There are many high-level monks who choose to flee before they feel the danger in their minds, and they can't kill them even if they want to. There is only a large-scale battlefield like the Yaoguang City Guard War, where the Qi machine is extremely chaotic, and there are dangers everywhere, so no specific danger can be sensed." In front of Qin Daoxian, a light spot slowly condenses. If you magnify it countless times, you can see that there are countless dense lines on this light spot, and this is the spiritual origin created by Qin Daoxian. It's just that compared with other cultivators in the creation realm, Qin Daoxian's spiritual origin still has a small gap. On the whole, his spirituality has only been completed 99%, and the last 1% is not done. Suddenly, Qin Daoxian opened his eyes and asked, "Liar, what do you think the first spiritual life I created should be?" I don't know, Qin Lang decides for himself. Luo Li seemed to be a little nervous and there was nowhere to start. To create spiritual life, this is really a bit far away for Luo Li, who is a talented person, but it is something that Qin Daoxian is about to face. Thinking of this, Luo Li couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. "Brother Shen." Shen Changqing was walking on the road, and when he met someone he knew, he would say hello or nod to each other. But no matter who, everyone's face has no superfluous expressions, as if they are very indifferent to everything. To this, Shen Changqing is used to it. Because this is the Ministry of Suppression, it is an organization that maintains the stability of Daqing. Its main responsibility is to kill monsters and monsters. Of course, there are also some other side jobs. It can be said, in the Demon Suppression Division, everyone had a lot of blood on their hands. When a person is used to seeing life and death, he will become indifferent to many things. When he first came to this world, Shen Changqing was a little uncomfortable, but over time he got used to it. The town magic department is very big. Those who can stay in the town demon division are all powerful masters, or those who have the potential to become masters. Shen Changqing belongs to the latter. Among them, the demon suppression division is divided into two occupations. One is the guardian envoy and the other is the demon slayer. Anyone who enters the demon suppression division starts from the lowest level of demon slayer. Then he was promoted step by step, and finally he was expected to become a guardian envoy. Shen Changqing's predecessor was a trainee slayer in the demon suppression division, and he was also the lowest ranked slayer. has the memory of the predecessor. He is also very familiar with the environment of the town demon division. It didn't take too long. Shen Changqing stopped in front of an attic. Different from other places full of chills in the demon suppression division, the attic here seems to stand out from the crowd, showing a different tranquility in the suppression demon division. At this time the door to the attic was open and occasionally people came in and out. Shen Changqing just hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. Enter the attic. Circumstances have changed in vain. A burst of ink fragrance mixed with a faint smell of blood rushed towards his face, causing his brows to instinctively wrinkle, but it quickly relaxed. There is almost no way to clean the smell on everyone in the Zhenmosi. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 494. Qianhuang World. North Sea. Above the sea, two figures stood on the sea. It was Qin Daoxian and Luoli. Qinlang, are you going to create spiritual life here? Luoli looked at the endless sea and said in surprise. Qin Daoxian nodded, that's it. As he said, he turned his palm over and a tiny light spot floated in his palm, which was the spirituality created by Qin Daoxian. Now he will use this spirituality to create a new spiritual life. Seeing this scene, not only Luoli but also Qin Daoxian himself was a little excited. After creating spiritual life, his Xianhuang realm will undergo a thorough upgrade, and when the upgrade of the Xianhuang realm is over, he will be a veritable Taoist in the realm of creation. Think about this. Qin Daoxian stopped dawdling, and used the biological model constructed in his mind to create a new spiritual life according to the method he had tried countless times in the past. In the void. A beating heart was created by Qin Daoxian with the power of the world of Xianhuang realm, followed by other internal organs, nerves, bones. Slowly, a humanoid species began to appear in front of Qin Daoxian. But when he created the lower part of this life, it was not a lower limb but a fish tail. That's right, the spiritual life Qin Daoxian wants to create is exactly the mermaid race, similar to the merman race. However, this new race is quite different from the mermaid, more like the mermaid in the myths and legends of the previous life. Gradually, a fish tail several meters long appeared in front of the two of them, and the final perfection was the mermaid's brain. The brain part is also the key. Last time Qin Daoxian failed at this step. Because no matter how he perfected it with the power of the world, the brain he created was always incompatible with the torso. Qin Daoxian didn't understand it before, but only later learned that it is impossible to create spiritual life without spirituality. This is also the reason why he has devoted himself to studying the origin of spirituality for so long. Fortunately, the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic continued to help him recover his consumed consciousness. The speed at which he studied the origin of spirituality was many times faster than that of other world-level 5th-level Daijins. To sum up, Qin Daoxian was able to create spirituality so quickly, and the two functions of Hongmeng Enlightenment of Taoism, which doubled his understanding and restored his consciousness, were indisputable. On the side, Luoli saw that Qin Daoxian was concentrating on creating the brain of this mermaid, and his expression suddenly became nervous. She knows that success or failure is here. At the moment when the mermaid's brain was formed in front of him, Qin Daoxian snapped out a bit of spirituality in his right hand. The flying spirituality hit the brain of the female mermaid in front of her. The brain, which was in violent conflict with the torso and was about to collapse at any time, suddenly became quiet after accepting this spirituality. Did you make it? Luoli couldn't help but said. Qin Daoxian nodded and smiled, it's done. Hearing this, Luoli laughed happily. The next job is to modify the face of the female mermaid. Qin Daoxian, as a face control, decisively created a look for her that he thought was beautiful. Looking at the beautiful appearance of the mermaid in front of him, Luoli had some taste. Why did you make it so beautiful? It looks pleasing to the eye. Qin Daoxian smiled. Luoli pouted, but she wasn't really angry. The newly created spiritual life is just a mortal thing. It is almost impossible to have spiritual roots and embark on the path of cultivation. You must know that even the human race, a race of spiritual beings known as the spirit of all things, is 1 in 100 people with spiritual roots, not to mention the low-end spiritual beings created by Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian saw that the heat was about the same, so he simply threw the mermaid into the North Sea. The moment the mermaid touched the sea water, its eyes suddenly opened. Unlike the black pupils of the human race, this female mermaid's pupils were green. Although Qin Daoxian and Luoli were standing on the sea several feet above the mermaid, the female mermaid couldn't find them at all. It jumped out of the sea suddenly with a sharp cry from its mouth, and immediately flipped over and jumped into the sea again. As a world with a diameter of more than 300,000 miles, Xuanwangji already has a relatively complete ecological chain in the North Sea, and there are a large number of fish and algae in the North Sea. This newly created female mermaid does not lack food. Luo Li asked curiously, "Is this the end?" "Of course not." Qin Daoxian smiled and shook his head. "The upgrading of the world is an extremely long process, but spiritual life is its catalyst. Now there is only one female mermaid in the Shenhuang realm, and this catalyst is too little." Although he didn't quite understand what the catalyst in Qin Daoxuan's mouth meant, Luo Li also roughly understood the meaning of Qin Daoxuan's words. In the next days, Qin Daoxian sat quietly above the North Sea and kept creating the mermaid tribe. One after another mermaid was created by him. As more and more mermaids were created, a wonderful change began to take place in the Shenhuang world. This kind of change, Qin Daoxian is also a little unclear because this change is more like a reward of the Tao. Although Luo Li's cultivation base was low, she also felt this change. Xuanwangji is transforming. Qin Daoxuan's eyes were full of joy. After working so hard for so long, he finally took this step and he had no reason not to be excited. More importantly, only by becoming a Daojun of Creation Realm can you be qualified to compete for the recommended spot for Wuhe Tianzuan. Otherwise, Qin Daoxian doesn't even have the qualifications to compete, not to mention getting a place. That is heavenly venerate transcending tribulation. The pinnacle of the human race. Whether it is Shouyuan or strength, Tianzuan Dujie is the top group of people in the human race. And to become Tianzuan of transcending tribulation, if he has power behind him, it also means that this power is qualified to become the top power in the human race. Strength represents everything, especially in today's precarious human race. A whole year. The transformation of the Shenhuang realm finally stopped. This time the world has been upgraded, and the expansion of the world is only one of them. More importantly, Qin Daoxian found that the spiritual energy of the Shenhuang realm has become more intense. If it is said that the Shenhuang realm in the past could only allow monks who did not exceed the Zifu period to practice here, now the Shenhuang realm can accommodate the cultivators of the nascent soul period to practice here, and the difference is huge. As for the aura environment that accommodates Yuanshan Daojun and even Dujie Tianzan's cultivation, the current Shenhuang realm is far from reaching. In this regard, Qin Daoxian is not discouraged. After all, he has just stepped into the level of creation. Not only that, after reaching the creation realm, the power of the world in the Shenhuang realm also transformed. Qin Daoxian could clearly feel that after his mana was merged with the power of the world in the Shenhuang realm, the power rose a huge ladder. As for the improvement of strength due to the transformation of the Tao Law, etc., not to mention. In general, the gap in strength between the fifth layer Daojun of the world realm and the Daojun of the creation realm is larger than the gap between the Daojun of the creation realm and the heavenly lord of tribulation. Because the Daojun of the creation realm and the Tianzuan of the transcending robbery are in the final analysis, the realm of the Tao is at the same level. The only difference is that Dujie Tianzuan has passed the first thunder tribulation, and the mana in the body is transformed into pure yang immortal power. This transformation is not obvious when the two sides do not use the pure yang immortal artifact. But if Dujie Tianzuan had a pure yang immortal artifact in his hand, then the difference in combat power between the two would be very obvious. Initially possessing the magic power of immortal energy, it can exert the power of immortal weapons, which is completely different from the magic power of Daojun level. When Qin Daoxian relied on 1,000 5-star insect soldiers to kill a heavenly venerate world demon, it was also because the other party had no immortal weapons. If there was an immortal weapon, the result would probably be completely different. This is also the reason why Xiao Yuhua is so crazy and unscrupulous after knowing that Qianyuan Sword Sect has an immortal weapon. Not to mention that most of the immortal artifacts in the real demon world were snatched from the real immortals of the human race in ancient times, and they did not refine immortal artifacts themselves. This is also one of the few advantages that the human race has against the monsters. Looking back at Xuanwangji, Qin Daoxian looked at Luo Li and said, let's go back to Tianzuan Mountain." Luo Li nodded obediently. Qin Daoxian waved his hand. The next moment, the figures of the two appeared directly at the foot of Tianzuan Mountain in Guangyuan realm. "World teleportation is really convenient," Luo Li exclaimed. "It's really convenient, but there are also many restrictions, and after breaking through the tribulation transcendence period, many monks hid the world in their bodies, and then they won't be able to use the world teleportation technique." Luo Li was by Qin Daoxuan's side, and he had some understanding of Daijin's follow-up cultivation path. She understands the meaning of Qin Daoxuan's words. If Qin Daoxian breaks through to the tribulation period in the future, he can choose to place the Shenhuang realm in the inner world. You can also choose to keep the Shenhuang realm in your body, just like the source realm in the body of a world monster. The difference between the two is, putting the world outside the body can still perform the technique of world teleportation, but his strength will be much lower than that of bringing the world into the body. Therefore, most of the heavenly venerate transcending tribulations will choose to bring the heavenly venerate realm into their bodies. This is also the reason why Qin Daoxian rarely sees the celestial realm in the inner world. To be precise, the heavenly venerate realm exists in the heavenly venerate in the major cities and acropolis of the human race. This is also the reason why the human race monks care so much about every immortal city. Not only because these immortal cities are pure yang immortal artifacts, the human race cannot afford to lose them. The more important reason is that every immortal city is actually a heavenly venerate realm. If Xianqing falls unless Tianzuan can run away, it means that a Tianzuan world is destroyed. This kind of loss is really difficult for the human race to accept. Guangyuan realm. The moment Qin Daoxian appeared, Wuhe Tianzuan appeared in front of him. For the first time, Qin Daoxian saw a look of shock on Wuhe Tianzun's face. You broke through. Lucky. Qin Daoxian did not dare to be arrogant and said modestly. After a long while, Wuhe Tianzuan sighed. It's a pity if it weren't for the world's drag with your talent, you will definitely be able to become an immortal in the future. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but be silent. For hundreds of thousands of years, is there no cultivator in the Phoenix Meteor realm and inner territory who can survive the ninth thunder calamity and become a Mahayana true immortal? Of course there is. But all because of the drag of the world, this can't be immortal. Because the Phoenix Meteor realm was swallowed up by the true demon realm, the world was incomplete, and the Mahayana true immortal could no longer be born. As for Guangji, it is even more unbearable. The world status of the Guangyuan realm itself is one level lower than that of the Phoenix Meteor realm. Even the Phoenix Meteor realm can't give birth to the Mahayana true immortal, and the Guangyuan realm can't do it even more. The world is a drag on this sentence, not just talk. Only those heavenly venerates of 8 tribulations can truly empathize with them. Don't talk about others, just say that the Ini Tianzuan who rescued the danger of Yaoguang City, how enchanting his talent is. To be able to use the body of the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate to force back a demon court emperor master holding an immortal weapon. Such a terrifying accumulation is still stuck at the level of the 8th tribulations heavenly venerate, unable to go any further. It is conceivable that if Ini Tianzuan was born in the real demon world, he would have become a Mahayana real immortal long ago. But what makes Qin Daoxian feel gratified is that even so, the highest level of the human race, the Silver Wing Tianzuan and Wuhe Tianzuan, did not choose to sell the human race to complete himself. This kind of character, Qin Daoxian sincerely admires. He respects Wuhe Tianzuan so much, not only because of the opponent's powerful strength, but also because of his noble character. On the side, Luo Li saw Wuhe Tianzuan and hurriedly bowed to him. Wuhe Tianzuan nodded and immediately looked at Qin Daoxian. It seems that I still underestimated you. He paused. You want to compete for the spot this time? Think? Qin Daoxian was straightforward. Okay, since you want to fight, I will fulfill you. Wuhe Tianzuan continued. I chose a total of 6 people as candidates this time, and you are 7 people. Sure enough, Wuhe Tianzuan did not divide Qin Daoxian into this quota at the beginning. What he thought in his heart was to try his best to cultivate Qin Daoxian in this 1,000 years so that he could win the next place. But Wuhe Tianzuan did not expect that Qin Daoxian was so evil. In just 10 years, he actually broke through from a 3rd-level Taoist in the world to the level of a Taoist in the creation. This kind of terrifying speed of cultivation is also due to the fact that only Wuhe Tianzuan knows about it. If it is known by the real immortal level world demon of Yaoting, I am afraid that it will try to get rid of Qin Daoxian. Compared with the fully defended human race, the world demon is much stronger. Due to their powerful strength, the world monsters have many more options than the human race. Although the real demon world is in a state of division, its foundation is too deep. With just one demon court, the strength far exceeds that of all the cultivators. It is for this reason that Yaoting has been implementing a plan for a long time, that is, a genius monk who has a plan to understand the human race. No matter how talented the monks of the human race are, they cannot break through to the Mahayana true immortal. But a Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate, a monk even stronger than Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate, sits in the main city of the human race, and it will be a huge obstacle for the world monster to attack the entire human race in the future. This point, the high level of Yaoting is very clear. So, for hundreds of thousands of years, the genius monks of the human race have been assassinated. Even due to the great power of the world demon, there are many traitors in the human race who are willing to act as the world demon lackeys. Fortunately, after the world demon destroys the human race in the future, they can save a life. Wuha Tianzuan thought about it for a while and then said, "Among the 7 of you, you don't know each other, and you must know the reason why I did this." Qin Daoshan nodded, "I know." "No, you don't know." Wuha Tianzuan shook his head and sighed. "Although this is the inner domain of our human race, due to the increasing momentum of the demon court recently, many people have been unable to bear it. The last time I was in Yaoguang City to help another city, I was ambushed on the way and the whole army was wiped out, which is an example. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 495. Wuha Tianzan's words made Qin Daoxuan's heart shudder. Indeed, in the current situation of the human race, it is not normal for no one to rape. This is still the world monsters feeding on the human race. Otherwise Qin Daoshan is sure that there will be more monks who surrender and become traitors. Acting as a traitor to the world monster, even if the world monster wins, these spies may not end well. After all, the world monster is notorious for its brutality. But even so, there are still quite a few monks in the human race who are lucky, or, in other words, the monks who are a little more rational are not optimistic about the future of the human race. It is human nature for some people to seek a way out, even if this way of retreat does not seem so reliable. The 7 of you are all the preparatory heavenly venerates that I have selected, especially you. Wuha Tianzuan looked at him. In the future, before your strength has reached the level of Silver Wing Tianzuan, you must hide yourself well, remember. These words can be described as reassuring. If it wasn't for Qin Daoxuan's talent that shocked Wuha Tianzuan in his capacity, he would definitely not have said these words. Qin Daoxuan's expression froze and he said solemnly, "Daoxian, remember." Wuha Tianzuan nodded. "What else do you want to ask now?" Hearing this, Qin Daoxuan's eyes lit up. The one in front of him is the top small group of powerhouses in the human race. It can be said that the secrets of the human race and the demons, this one only knows, there are far more secrets than him. But what Qin Daoshan wanted to know most was the information about the world demon. The existence of the world demon is always a big stone in the heart of the human race. "Tianzuan, I want to know how strong the world demon is." "How strong is the demon?" Wuha Tianzan's eyes were complicated and he shook his head. "To be honest, I don't know how strong the real demon is. I only know that there are 4 major demon domains in the real demon world. These 4 demon realms are actually the 4 realms that divide the power of the real world monsters. You should know that the division of the real world monsters is based on their strength. In this regard, the world monster is even more naked than my human race." Qin Daoshan nodded. "Wan Xinghai has several channels for world demons. Qin Daoshan does not know everything about the situation of world demons, but he does know a little bit. These 4 demon domains are the Sacred Ancient Demon Domain, the Greedy Wolf Demon Domain, the Barbarian Demon Domain, and the Wasteland Demon Domain with the most low-level demons." Hearing the Wasteland Demon Domain, Qin Daoxuan's eyes narrowed slightly. The 4 big demon kingdoms opposite the Wangxinghai True Demon Realm passage are located in the Wilderness Demon Realm, and these 4 big demon kingdoms are just a few insignificant little demon kingdoms in the Wasteland Demon Realm. Unexpectedly, even the Wasteland Demon Realm is the lowest level demon realm in the True Demon Realm. No wonder Qin Daoshan didn't find too many high-level world monsters in the Wasteland Demon Realm, but in the battlefield outside the realm, the real Monarch level and even Daojun level world monsters were only ordinary combat power. Wuha Tianzuan continued to introduce, "At present, the biggest enemy of my human race is the demon court in the real demon world." Hearing this, Qin Daoshan couldn't help but ask, "Tianzuan, since the real demon world is so complicated, can the demon court dominate the real demon world?" "Can?" Wuha Tianzuan affirmed. "You have no idea how strong the Emperor of Yaoting is." Qin Daoshan opened his mouth but did not speak after all. Obviously, the demon court emperor must be a true immortal level world demon, and he is also a very powerful true immortal level world demon. On the side of the human race, the strongest person who can do it is nothing but the Heavenly Venerate Transcendence Heavenly Venerate, who can compete with the true immortal level world demon. If it weren't for the human race, Tianzuan City and other main cities, they would not be able to hold it long ago. Even so, if Yaoting ignores it and goes all out to attack the human race line of defense, the human race will probably not be able to withstand it. But in this way the strength of the demon court will also be seriously consumed, thus making wedding dresses for other forces in the real demon world. Therefore Yao Ting chose to settle the inside first and then fight against the outside. From a decision-making point of view, there is nothing wrong with Yao Ting's approach. Once the real demon world is unified by the demon court, the human race will face the entire real demon world. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian felt his scalp tingle. When he was weak at first, he had thought about using industrially produced instruments to disrupt the real demon world. Now that he thinks about it, he is still too naive. In his eyes, the huge wasteland demon realm is only the weakest demon realm in the real demon realm, and the remaining sacred ancient demon realm, wolf-greedy demon realm, and man's demon realm are even stronger than one. It is undoubtedly a dream to want to sell the magic weapon to the world demon of the ancient demon domain and let it resist the demon court. According to Wuha Tianzuan, the demon court has already occupied an absolute advantage in the real demon world, and the unification of the real demon world is only a matter of time. He now runs to the real demon world to stir up the situation, which is equivalent to hitting the muzzle of the demon court. You must know that even the human race only dares to defend the city in the face of the demon court, not to mention Qin Daoxian's Northern Immortal League. Tianzuan, I would like to know more information about Yao Ting. We don't know how many powerhouses Yao Ting has. We only know that the strongest person in Yao Ting is also the leader of Yao Ting, and he is the emperor of Yao Ting, while the other real fairy-level monsters are collectively called emperors. You must have seen it in Yaoguang City. Qin Daoxian nodded. Wuha Tianzuan continued, as for Tianzuan-level world demons, they are called divine generals by Yao Ting. The number of divine generals in Yao Ting is extremely large, and they are also the mainstay of Yao Ting. As for the Daojuan-level world demon and the True Monarch-level world demon, in Yao Ting's eyes, they are cannon fodder. Are all Daojuan-level demons cannon fodder? Qin Daoxian was stunned. Yes, cannon fodder. Wuha Tianzuan has complicated eyes. Indeed, for human cultivators, Daojuan-level powerhouses are already second only to Heavenly Venerate. But to Yao Ting it's just high-level cannon fodder. It is conceivable that the strength of Yao Ting is much stronger than that of the human race. Qin Daoxian couldn't help but think that if the human cultivator hadn't relied on the immortal city and formation left by the ancient real immortals, it is estimated that they would have been exterminated by the world monsters long ago. Seeing Qin Daoxian's heavy face, Wuha Tianzuan smiled and said, Okay, you don't have to put too much pressure. Even if the final fate of the human race in the Phoenix meteor world is destruction, it is only the branch of the human race that is destroyed. Looking at the whole world, my human race is still the protagonist of heaven and earth. Speaking of this, there is an indescribable pride in Wuha Tianzuan's words. Although the monks of the Phoenix meteor realm only knew the existence of the heavens and the myriad realms in the ancient books, this did not prevent them from understanding the glory of the human race. It is also with this unyielding arrogance that the human monks of Fengyun realm can support hundreds of thousands of years. Otherwise, the morale of the human race would have collapsed long ago after being trapped for so long. Qin Daoxian didn't know how he got back to the abyss. Only when Luo Li called him did Qin Daoxian come back to his senses completely. What's the matter? You look like you're not letting go? Luo Li was concerned. Fine, Qin Daoxian smiled, I'm thinking about fighting for a place. Hearing this, Luo Li exclaimed, I believe that Lang Chen will definitely get what he wants. Then borrow the lattice auspicious words. The two laughed a little. Qin Daoxian and Luo Li went into retreat. It was a rare opportunity. Luo Li accompanied Qin Daoxian to break through to the realm of creation, which delayed a lot of time to practice in the abyss. Naturally, he had to hurry up. As for Qin Daoxian, there is a more important thing to do, that is to practice astral technique. To be honest, the most difficult part for Qin Daoxian to cultivate the astrology is no longer the esoteric level of this immortal art, but the lack of pure yang immortal sword. Although the human race has mastered many immortal weapons left over from the ancient times, but with 1,800 pure yang fairy swords, Qin Daoxian dares to guarantee that even if the human race takes out the old foundation, it will not be able to come up with so many. Therefore, Qin Daoxian has been thinking about workarounds or alternatives. According to the records in astral art, the function of the pure yang fairy sword is only transformed into stars, and finally the power of Zhou Tian stars is gathered and reflected on Qin Daoxian himself. If this technique is successful, even if it is just a first glimpse of the door, Qin Daoxian can gather the power of 1,800 pure yang fairy swords on himself. With the power of 1,800 pure yang immortal artifacts, Qin Daoxian could hardly imagine how powerful it would be. However, although he was envious of the terrifying strength after successfully cultivating the astral technique, he knew more clearly that he couldn't come up with so many pure yang fairy swords. Therefore, Qin Daoxian was thinking about whether he could use other instruments to replace the fairy sword. After all, according to the statement in astral art, the immortal sword is just a carrier. Since it is a carrier, it should be able to be replaced. Moreover, it is difficult to say how powerful the power of using the fairy sword to be transformed into stars is, to be honest. Magical instruments, including immortal instruments, can only burst with terrifying power when controlled by monks. Although the pure yang immortal artifact is extremely powerful when it is not controlled by monks, it is very different from the immortal power injected by monks. But another special magic weapon is different. Even if it is not controlled by a cultivator, it can burst out terrifying power. This magic weapon is nothing else, it is Qin Daoxian's insect soldier. That's right, Taoist soldiers, strictly speaking, are also a special kind of magic weapon, but only a magic weapon with wisdom. If the insect soldier is used as a carrier of stars, can it replace the pure yang immortal sword and gather 1800 Jotian stars? Of course, all this is just Qin Daoxian's guess. If you change the star carrier, many things will also change, and even the original formation will need to be adjusted. But these, Qin Daoxian is not afraid. No matter how profound things are, as long as there is a solution, he is not afraid. This is the confidence brought to him by the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. If you change to other monks, you probably wouldn't even think about it. You must know that Qin Daoxian's behavior is to modify an immortal art that directly points to the avenue. And listening to the tone of the Taoist in white, Qin Daoxian knew that the origin of this immortal technique was extremely high. This moment, Qin Daoxian struggled fiercely in his heart. There are only two chances to inherit the astral technique, and he has to rely on these two inheritances to successfully modify it into another version, and it is not finished. Whether or not this immortal art can be left in the end is the key. It was because of the inheritance of the astral art that Qin Daoxian knew that the so-called three inheritance opportunities were also a test of whether a cultivator could obtain this immortal art. Once the cultivator is unable to practice the astral art, after three inheritances, he will forget this spell forever. This is also where Qin Daoxian is most confused. He didn't know whether cultivating the astral technique, modified by him, could be regarded as a successful entry. If it doesn't count, all the memories of this immortal art in his sea of consciousness will be deleted, but the gains will outweigh the losses. Fight. Qin Daoxian finally made up his mind and decided to give it a shot. No way, after learning the terrifying strength of the world demon, Qin Daoxian felt even more urgency in his heart. There is no shortage of low-level monks in the human race. What the human race really lacks is the top powerhouse. Tianzuan sticks to the main city and the Acropolis, but it is barely enough, but he cannot take the initiative to attack. Qin Daoxian wants to be the first person who can take the initiative to attack Yaoting. Thinking of this, he took out a gourd magic weapon and sank his consciousness into it. Next moment, in the gourd cave, one insect soldier appeared in his sight. After so many years, the more than 5,000 insect soldiers in his hands had already devoured the corpses of more than 30 million world demons. Looking around, the insect soldiers in the gourd cave heaven are all 5-star insect soldiers at the lowest level, which is equivalent to the level of the 5th layer Daojun in the world. As for the strongest ones, it was the 6-star worm soldiers who emerged from the worm chrysalis. That's right, although these 6-star insect soldiers failed to exert their power in Yaoguang City, they broke out of the chrysalis during the years of Qin Daoxian's retreat and cultivation. Moreover, due to the devouring of 30 million high-level world demons, the number of 6-star insect soldiers in Qin Daoxian's hands has reached more than 2,110. It can be said that with the strength of this insect soldier, Qin Daoxian dared to challenge Wuxia Tianzuan. More than 2,100 creation realm Daojun high-level Tianzuan met. It is estimated that they have to take a detour. Of course, the premise is that the high-level Tianzuan chooses to fight recklessly with the insect soldiers. But if the other party chooses to kill Qin Daoxian, the insect soldier controller, the situation will be completely different. There is no special means to limit the speed of the high-level Tianzuan, and it is almost impossible for the 6th-order insect soldiers to besiege a high-level Tianzuan. This is also the reason why Qin Daoxian insists on improving his own strength. Blindly relying on external forces, it is easy to be eliminated by the enemy's decapitation tactics. 6-star insect soldiers, I don't know if they can act as a carrier of stars. If they can succeed, this is the power of 1,800 creators of the realm of Taoism in one person. Qin Daoxian muttered. With his current strength, even if he played all his cards, he wouldn't dare to say that he could win a few worm soldiers. And relying on the 6-star insect soldiers to start the practice of astral technique, he will instantly obtain the power blessing of 1,800 6-star insect soldiers, and it is a perfect power blessing. What is this concept? What secret method, magic weapon, which monk of the same rank can withstand Qin Daoxian, who is blessed by the power of 1,800 Daijins of creation realm? It is estimated that he will not need any secret magic weapon at that time, and he will be able to crush all enemies with just an ordinary punch. That's the horror of astrology, and it's just entry-level astrology. Wanting to fight this, Qin Daoxian became even hotter in his heart. He must succeed in cultivating this technique. Perhaps this will become his final card to turn things around. In the Sea of Knowledge, the huge ball of light representing the astral technique floats quietly in the depths of the Sea of Knowledge. Qin Daoxian's consciousness was on this ball of light, and suddenly the second inheritance of astral technique rushed towards him like a tide. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 496. This time, Qin Daoxian was well prepared and used the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic to increase his understanding to 300 times the original. This is the first time Qin Daoxian has raised his comprehension to such a terrifying level. In the Sea of Knowledge, the comprehension stars are madly consumed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Qin Daoxian estimated that this giant comprehension star will be completely consumed in a maximum of 1 stick of incense. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian did not dare to delay. Quickly comprehend the astrology. According to the inheritance, the cultivation of astral art is divided into 3 steps. The first step is to make 1,800 thoughts into 1,800 pure yang fairy swords. Since Qin Daoxian planned to replace the Chunyang immortal sword with 6-star insect soldiers, he integrated 1,800 thoughts into 1,800 6-star insect soldiers. This step is the easiest step in astral art. Qin Daoxian can know the specific method of integrating his thoughts without careful comprehension. He has done it before and he will do it again this time, but he is familiar with it. The second step of astral art is much more difficult. If you want to practice the second step, you must have a preliminary understanding of the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array, and arrange the 1,800 6-star insect soldiers that have been integrated into the mind and arrange them in the star's kendo diagram according to the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array. The most difficult part of this step is to comprehend the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array. Although it is only a preliminary understanding, it is a difficult task for a creator realm Taoist, and it is even impossible to complete. The Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array is one of the best in the world, and the only thing that can be compared with it is the Heavenly Sect Master's Immortal Execution Sword Array. But the Immortal Execution Sword formation was performed by a saint, and it was fundamentally different from the Zhou Tianxing Du Great formation. And if you want to fully comprehend the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array, you must be a quasi-sage to be sure. As for Qin Daoxian, he is still 108,000 miles away. However, the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array recorded in the astral technique is obviously simplified by a powerful cultivator, and the inheritor can understand it step by step, instead of directly comprehending the complete Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array. In this way, Qin Daoxian had the possibility to get started. Otherwise, even if he has the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, he will never be able to penetrate the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array. In this second inheritance, Qin Daoxian's key goal was to comprehend the Zhou Tianxing Great Array. Since Qin Daoxian's comprehension was only 100 times his own when Wan Xinghai accepted the inheritance of astral technique for the first time, plus his lack of cultivation at that time, the first inheritance was largely influenced by him. Wasted. However, Qin Daoxian has mastered the key to integrating his thoughts into the 6-star insect soldier, and he has accumulated a certain advantage. This time he only needs to do his best to successfully comprehend the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array, and then he will be considered to have achieved his goal. Under the blessing of 300 times of comprehension, the Zhou Tianxing Du Great Array, which was originally so complicated and esoteric that the monks would be dizzy, actually became organized in the eyes of Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian had long been prepared for this phenomenon. However, the time he was able to maintain his comprehension this time was not long, and he did not dare to delay, and directly realized the Zhou Tianxing Du formation. The second inheritance of astral art lasted 3 days in total, which was much longer than the first inheritance. This also means that Qin Daoxian can use 300 times the state of comprehension to comprehend the 3-day star battle array. If it is impossible to get started, Qin Daoxian also recognizes it. Soon the time for a stick of incense passed. Qin Daoxian withdrew from a state of 300 times his comprehension, and at the moment when his comprehension declined, the originally clear and orderly formation turned into an incomparably complicated crow in his eyes. What is this? Qin Daoxian looked at the intricate ghost painting talisman in front of him, and it was hard to imagine that he felt that the formation was organized just now. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian no longer delays, and decisively absorbs the chaos qi in the origin bead. As the qi of chaos was transformed into the comprehension stardust by the golden scriptures in the sea of knowledge, and finally the comprehension stardust condensed into a huge star. At this point, Qin Daoxian can display his 300-fold comprehension state again. As the 300-fold comprehension state was stimulated, the ghost talisman, in Qin Daoxian's eyes became clear and organized again. That's right. Qin Daoxian sighed and continued to comprehend with his heart. Time passed slowly. Soon 2 days passed. Before the abyss, Qin Daoxian suddenly opened his eyes and his eyes were full of joy. Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array finally got started. No wonder he was so delighted. You must know that this formation is the Zhou Tianxing Do formation known as the first formation in the Great Desolation. It can also be seen from this that the person who created the fairy art of astrology has a lot of background. Not to mention other things, Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array is not something ordinary people can get, let alone simplify it. There is only one possibility that Qin Daoxian can think of. Shaking his head, throwing the miscellaneous thoughts out of his mind, and initially comprehend the Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array, it does not mean the entry of astral art. If you want to get started with the practice of astrology, you have to pass the 3rd level, which is also the most difficult level, that is, to transmit the power of 1,800 insect soldiers to yourself through the Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array. This is not a simple matter. In other words, with Qin Daoxian's current physical body, this is simply impossible. Qin Daoxian's current cultivation base is the Daojun of the creation realm. Although his flesh is much stronger than when he first entered the Yuanshan period, it is far from being able to withstand the projection of the power of 1800 Daojun of the creation realm. Therefore, the 3rd step of this astral technique is to develop the acupoints of the physical body and transform them into a large array of stars. To put it simply, it is to develop the acupoints and form the Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array. According to the expression in the body training method, there are endless acupoints in the human body, and each orifice is like a star. However, the acupoints that monks can usually use are very limited, so there is no need to develop them too much. For example, since Qin Daoxian began to refine his qi, he only penetrated all the meridians of his body, and after that he rarely lit the acupoints of his body. It was not impossible but unnecessary. After lighting up the 1800 orifices in the body, the most critical step is to set the stars. The Zhou Tianxing Do in the stars kendo diagram is listed in the 1800 orifices of the flesh body, and supplemented by the Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array, which perfectly undertakes this terrifying power. After completing this step, astrology can be regarded as a real introduction. After Qin Daoxian accepted the 2nd inheritance of astral technique, he only remembered the positions of all the acupoints of the flesh body. It is not difficult for the current Qin Daoxian to open up the acupoints of the flesh body. For him, the really difficult step was to use the acupoints of the flesh to withstand the power of the 1,806 star insect soldiers in the star kendo diagram. This is the power of 1,800 creators of the realm of Taoism. Qin Daoxian's move was as incredible as a mortal carrying the weight of 1,800 people. This step can be said not only to test Qin Daoxian's understanding, but also to test his Taoism. Without an unshakable Tao heart, no cultivator would dare to take such a risk. In the next days, accompanied by Luo Li, Qin Daoxian continued to open up the acupoints of his body. In less than a month, all 1,800 orifices were lit up by him. Closing his eyes and looking inside, the 1,800 orifices are like 1,800 stars, all over his body. Opening his eyes, Qin Daoxian looked at Luo Li not far from him. As it happened, Luo Li also opened his eyes if he felt something. Feeling Qin Daoxian's gaze, Luo Li turned her head slightly and said with a smile, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Qin Daoxian shook his head, "I just want to take a good look at you." Luo Li was a little embarrassed by Qin Daoxian's sudden love words. Just when she wanted to say something, Qin Daoxian said again, "I have to retreat once." "Shut up again?" Luo Li frowned slightly. Yes, the secret technique of this retreat is very important for me to strive for a place in the Transcendence Tribulation period. Hearing that it was related to the competition for places, Luo Li immediately stopped talking and said in support, "Okay, I will protect the law for you." "Need not," Qin Daoxian shook his head, "I will go to Xianhuang realm to retreat and you will practice well here." Hearing this, although Luo Li was reluctant, he still supported him and said, "Well, don't worry, I will cultivate well and live up to your expectations." Qin Daoxian nodded. Immediately, the figure disappeared in front of Luo Li. Looking at Ai Lang's departure, Luo Li's eyes flashed with reluctance, and then he turned reluctance into motivation and continued to comprehend the Dao Yun of the abyss. Xianhuang world. Qin Daoxian's figure reappeared over the North Sea. Standing above the clouds overlooking the North Sea, Qin Daoxian discovered that the mermaid family in the sea has grown to thousands of scales. Although it is not worth mentioning when looking at the North Sea with the spirituality of the mermaid family, this race will sooner or later become the overlord in the North Sea. He will even become the ocean overlord of the entire Xianhuang realm. Of course, this presupposes that Qin Daoxian does not immigrate to the Xianhuang realm as a human cultivator. Otherwise, in the hands of the human race monks, the so-called spiritual race of the mermaid race is just a smarter fish, and they have not even evolved their language functions. Communication between races relies more on simple howls. After watching for a while, Qin Daoxian lost interest in this race he created by himself. He came to the Xianhuang realm, naturally not to pay attention to this trivial human race, but to practice the astral technique. Nowadays, the cultivation of astral technique has reached the most critical step. The 1800 thoughts have all been integrated into the 6-star insect soldiers, and these 6-star insect soldiers are all arranged in the magic weapon of the star kendo map. It is worth mentioning that, with the integration of 1,800 6-star Taoist soldiers into the star kendo map, originally taken out of the 5 elements law, the rank of the stars fell to the 6th rank low-grade magic weapon, and the rank has skyrocketed again, and it has become a high-grade fairy weapon. This is also the first fairy artifact owned by Qin Daoxian. Although the Xingqian Kendo map also has a pure yang atmosphere, it can only be regarded as an incomplete fairy weapon, and its rank is only equivalent to a 6th-order magic weapon. But now the Star Kendo map has become a top-grade fairy weapon. You must know that this rank fairy weapon, even if you look at the Phoenix Meteor realm and the True Demon realm, are the top fairy tools. Although there are many immortal artifacts in the Chuanbao Pavilion, there is not a single high-grade immortal artifact. Immortal artifacts of this rank are generally in the hands of the 8 Tribulations Heavenly Venerate, such as the Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate. Otherwise, how can Ini Tianzuan be able to match the real immortal level world demon with Tianzan's cultivation base? Of course, although the Xingqian Kendo map has been promoted to a high-grade fairy weapon, for Qin Daoxian he can't use it now. The reason is that after 1,800 6-star insect soldiers formed the Zhou Tian Xingdou Great Array, the Xingqian Kendo map was completely locked. Unless he uses the acupoints in his body to draw in the power of 1,800 6-star insect soldiers, no one can use this fairy weapon. At this moment, Qin Daoxian finally understood that the Xingqian Kendo map was a fairy weapon specially prepared for astral art. Now that all the preparations have been completed, there is only the power to attract 1,800 insect soldiers. Qin Daoxian took a deep breath. He knew all too well how risky the move was, but he had no choice. The world demon will not give him any chance to back down. Either you die or I die. If that's the case, why not fight to the death? Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian's emotions rose like never before. It's just death. Qin Daoxian's eyes narrowed, and he immediately cast the astral technique to draw the power of the 1,800 6-star insect soldiers in the star kendo map. Moment. In the star kendo diagram, the 6-star insect soldiers turned into stars were lit up one by one. Finally, all 1,800 stars were lit up and formed an extremely complex array. If there are powerful cultivators here, they will definitely recognize that this formation is a simplified version of the Zhou Tianxingdu Great Formation. When the 1,800 stars were completely connected, an incomparably huge force was projected onto the Baihui point on the top of Qin Daoxian's head. Then the Baihui point was completely lit up, but it was not over yet, and the force continued down the Baihui point. Soon, the 1,800 acupoints in Qin Daoxian's body were lit up by him one by one. At this point, the 1,800 6-star insect soldiers in the Xingqian Kendo diagram and the 1,800 orifices in Qin Daoxian's body formed a perfect circuit. Infinite power shuttles in this circuit. Qin Daoxian only felt that there was an explosive force surging in his body. This power is too strong. Qin Daoxian felt that at this moment he could smash the entire Shenhuang realm into pieces with just one punch. Is this what it feels like to have the power of 1,800 creators of the realm of Taoism all in one? Qin Daoxian murmured, with this power what other secrets and magic weapons do you need? Qin Daoxian couldn't help but have a word in his heart to prove the Tao with strength. No wonder there are monks who want to take the path of proving the way with strength. If other monks have this strength they will also want to take this path. Because it's so cool to go this route. What kind of exercises? What spell? What fairy? All in one punch. After venting for a while, Qin Daoxian suppressed this unbridled emotion. Although his cultivation base is still the Daojun of creation realm at this moment, his strength has soared to a level that he can't even figure it out himself. He is not someone who hasn't seen the big scene. In fact, Qin Daoxian has seen Wuhe Tianzuan take action, and he has also seen Yini Tianzuan and the Demon Court Emperor fight. But now he feels that fighting at the level of Wuhe Tianzuan seems to be the same. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian was shocked. Immediately, he secretly warned himself not to be careless. How many monks are dying on the careless? He must not make this mistake. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 497, Guangyuan Realm. Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion. Qin Daoxian's figure appeared beside Luo Li again. Seeing Qin Daoxian, Luo Li, who was comprehending the Tao, immediately stood up and said in surprise, "Why did you retreat so quickly this time?" "Well, there are still some things missing in this secret technique." "Lack of something?" Luo Li looked puzzled. "I'm going to Chuanbao Pavilion, just to buy a batch of high-level St. Yuan Dan for you." After this period of training and consumption, Luo Li's St. Yuan Dan was basically exhausted. Even if there is leftovers, it is not enough to cope with her current cultivation. Purchasing a higher-grade Xingyuan pill is related to Luo Li's subsequent practice, so Qin Daoxian naturally did not dare to be sloppy. Hearing that he was going to visit the Chuanbao Pavilion together, Luo Li's face was full of excitement. It has been a long time since she went shopping with Qin Daoxian and tasted delicious food. This time Qin Daoxian actually offered to accompany her to go shopping. How could Luo Li not be happy? In fact, Luo Li knew in her heart that Qin Daoxian had too much on his back. He couldn't afford to lose, he had to keep running forward. She could understand. But understanding is understanding. It is impossible to say that there is no idea of letting Qin Daoxian accompany her in her heart. During this period of time she retreated with Qin Daoxian, which was the day she had always dreamed of. Unexpectedly, Qin Daoxian took the initiative to ask her to go shopping. Looking at Luo Li's excited little face, for some reason, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but feel a trace of guilt in his heart. To Luo Li he was everything to her, but to Qin Daoxian this was not the case. He gently pulled Luo Li's little hand and said warmly, "Let's go." Say it. The two of them flew out of the Tianzuan mansion with the escape light. This trip to Chuanbao Pavilion. Qin Daoxian is already familiar with the road. As a giant immortal city appeared in the field of vision, Luo Li's little face was full of surprise. This is the immortal city of Buddha, an entertainment immortal city at the foot of Tianzuan Mountain. Entertainment fairy city? Luo Li was a little confused. So Qin Daoxian explained to her about the fighting demon industry in the immortal city of Buddha, which made her stunned for a while. Seemingly aroused by Qin Daoxian's explanation, Luo Li suddenly hugged Qin Daoxian's arm tightly and said coquettishly, "Why don't we go to the demon fighting arena too?" As he said that, he looked at Qin Daoxian expectantly. If someone else said that, Qin Daoxian would definitely refuse without even thinking about it, but it was Luo Li who made this request, and Qin Daoxian couldn't say anything if he refused. He nodded and smiled and said, "Okay, let's go take a look. I have long wanted to see what the charm of this fighting demon is, and it can attract so many cultivators." Having said that, Qin Daoxian still scoffed at Dou Yao's behavior. He has experienced the super-large demon wave just fighting demons in his eyes. What is the difference between playing a house and a child? But if Luo Li wanted to see it, Qin Daoxian couldn't bear to refuse. Luo Li laughed happily, her little head kept nodding. "Husband is the best." Luo Li seldom called Qin Daoxian her husband, and most of them called him Qin Lang. It seemed that she was really happy this time. Seeing her so happy, Qin Daoxian immediately felt that everything was worth it. The two were joking. Soon came to the branch of the Chuanbao Pavilion. The one who received him this time was the man dressed as a scholar last time. But Qin Daoxian knew that this scholar was not a monk, but a Taoist soldier. Luo Li also knew the traditions of the Chuanbao Pavilion, and was not surprised by the Taoist soldiers receiving them. Fellow Taoist fairy, you are being polite. When the scholar saw Qin Daoxian, he immediately bowed to him or Luolai. Qin Daoxian nodded and said bluntly, I want to buy something. I don't know what you want to buy this time? Seeing Qin Daoxian so straightforward, the scholar's tone was even more excited. This time I want 3 things: the Golden Crow Fragment, the Saint Yuan Pill used by the Yuaning cultivator, and the Immortal Artifact. When Qin Daoxian mentioned the first 2 treasures, the scholar still smiled, but when he mentioned the last fairy weapon, the scholar's face suddenly became serious. Do you want to buy a fairy weapon? The student's face was so serious that Qin Daoxian couldn't help but ask, what's the matter? Didn't you say that you can buy immortal artifacts from the Chuanbao Pavilion? You can buy it if you can, but fellow Taoists have to prove their identity. Prove your identity? Qin Daoxian frowned. He had never bought an immortal weapon, so he didn't know that he had to prove his identity when he bought an immortal weapon. But it also makes sense to think about it. Immortal artifacts, when they fall into the hands of a true immortal level world demon, can greatly enhance the opponent's strength. The human race strictly controls it, and it seems that there is no problem. Reading a scholar is not like a joke. Qin Daoxian thought for a while and said solemnly, I am from Wuha Tianzuan Palace. Here, nothing can prove his identity more than a high-level heavenly venerate. Hearing that Qin Daoxian was from the Wuha Tianzuan mansion, the scholar was taken aback and immediately cupped his hands. Fellow Taoist, please wait. Please? After saying that, the scholar instantly disappeared in front of Qin Daoxian and Luo Li. Where did he go? Lori asked curiously. If I guessed correctly, I must have confirmed my identity. Qin Daoxian was brought back to Tianzuan Mansion by Wuha Tianzuan personally. Regarding his identity, Wuha Tianzuan also assigned him to Wuha Tianzuan Mansion. If outsiders investigate, they can only find out that Qin Daoxian is the descendant of Wuha Tianzuan. As for other information, they can't find out at all. Chuanbao Pavilion is also considered to be very powerful. About a cup of tea, the scholar hurried back. Next to the scholar this time, there is also a human race creator Realm Daojun, who must be a high-level person in the Chuanbao Pavilion. Fellow Taoist, under Mo Qianfan, dare to ask the name of your friend. Mo Qianfan was dressed as a middle-aged cultivator. From the outside, it was impossible to tell that this ordinary middle-aged cultivator was actually a Taoist creator who was only one step away from the heavenly venerate. Qin Daoxian. It turned out to be fellow Taoist Qin. You are polite. After the greeting was over, Mo Qianfan continued, don't blame fellow Taoists. In order to prevent the immortal artifact from being acquired by the demons, my human race has strict control over the sale of immortal artifact. Qin Daoxian nodded understandingly. I know, I don't mean to blame fellow Taoist. Hearing this, Mo Qianfan breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Daoxian's cultivation base and origin made him think of the once-in-millennium opportunity that is coming in Guangyuan realm. If he guessed correctly, this person must be one of Wuha Tianzan's candidate seeds. In other words, the person standing in front of him is very likely to be a heavenly venerate in the near future. God. That is the pinnacle of human existence. Even if the strength of Tianzuan who just broke through is not much stronger than that of the creator Daojun, if Tianzuan masters the fairy weapon, the combat power is still far beyond that of the creator Daojun. Because after the cultivator broke through to the transcending tribulation period, the mana was eroded by the pure yang power of thunder tribulation, and it already had certain characteristics of immortal power. Therefore, the use of immortal tools by Tianzuan Dujia is much stronger than that of the creator of the realm. Presumably, this is also the reason why this cultivator named Qin Daoxian bought the immortal artifact. Mo Qianfan thought to himself. Fellow Taoist will understand. Mo Qianfan paused. I don't know what kind of fairy utensils you want to buy. Although we don't have many fairy utensils in Chuanbao Pavilion, we definitely have the most complete variety. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian didn't understand and asked, Friend Mo, I don't know much about immortal artifacts, so I wonder if you can help me out. Mo Qianfan smiled and nodded, Of course you can. Immortal artifacts are divided into grades, which can be roughly divided into high-grade artifacts, middle-grade artifacts, and low-grade artifacts. Immortal artifacts left over from ancient times, including those refined by our human race now, are mostly low-grade artifacts. Wait, you just said the immortal artifact that the human race is refining now? Can my human race make immortal artifact now? Qin Daoxian was really surprised. For a long time he thought that the human race had lost the ability to refine immortal artifacts, but he did not expect that the human race could actually refine immortal artifacts. This was far beyond his expectations. Of course it can be refined, otherwise fellow Taoist thinks that my Chuanbao pavilion can be so extravagant as to sell the most exquisite ancient immortal artifact at will? Makes sense. Qin Daoxian had always had doubts before, since it was rumored that immortal artifacts could not be refined. Why could Chuanbao Pavilion still sell immortal artifacts? You must know that since Chuanbao Pavilion can sell immortal artifacts for a long time, it proves that there are monks who buy it for a long time. This is not a one-shot deal but a long-term supply. This means that Chuanbao Pavilion must have a stable channel for goods. Thinking about it this way, the only explanation is that the human race can refine fairy artifacts. Although Qin Daoxian really wanted to ask how Chuanbao Pavilion refined the immortal artifacts, people would definitely not say such secrets. It's like when someone asks him the method of refining insect soldiers, he won't say it. Mo Qianfan smiled and continued, the fairy weapon is the same as the magic weapon. According to its function, it can also be divided into offensive, defensive and other special types. Qin Daoxian kept nodding his head. Generally speaking, a cultivator who has just broken through to the Tribulation Transcendence stage controls a low-grade immortal artifact, and it is already very reluctant. For monks, it is not that the more immortal weapons, the stronger the strength that can be exerted. In fact, the immortal artifact was not used by the Heavenly Venerate, at least not for the low-level Heavenly Venerate. If you want to truly exert the power of immortal artifacts, you must at least be high-level Heavenly Venerates like Wuxia Heavenly Venerate and Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate. Therefore, a cultivator who has just broken through the Tribulation Transcendence period will be able to use a low-grade immortal artifact. Since you can only choose one low-grade immortal weapon, it is a good choice. Almost all cultivators who have just broken through to the tribulation period will choose offensive low-grade immortal artifacts. Of course, Qin Daoxian was no exception. He immediately said, then introduce me to an offensive low-grade fairy weapon. It is good. Mo Qianfan nodded. The price of commonly used offensive low-grade immortal artifacts ranges from 10 million drops of the power of creation to 100 million drops of the power of creation. The specific price depends on the quality of the immortal artifacts. Qin Daoxian nodded. Even if it is a magical weapon of the same rank, the quality is different and the price is different, there is nothing to say. It's just that the price ranges from 10 million to 100 million drops of the power of creation, and Qin Daoxian is still a little surprised. It's not that the price is expensive, but that the quality of the immortal artifacts is a bit different. You must know that the immortal artifact he wants to buy is only a low-grade immortal artifact, not a mid-grade or high-grade artifact. Also ask fellow Taoists to present all the inferior immortal artifacts in your pavilion. Hearing this, Mo Qianfan gave Qin Daoxian a deep look and cupped his hands, fellow Taoist later. If it weren't for Qin Daoxian's cultivation base and identity, others would have slapped him out of the door long ago if they dared to say such arrogant words. But Qin Daoxian really didn't feel that he was arrogant. You must know that he still holds more than 900 million fortune powers in his hands. After so many years, the Qin family has refined how many fortune powers. It is said that Chuanbao Pavilion's earning power is second to none in the inner territory, but Qin Daoxian felt that compared with the Qin family, it was really hard to say. Compared with these top powers, the only difference between the Qin family and these top powers is in the background, not the difference in the ability to make money. The Qin family uses industry to refine the power of good fortune. This kind of power looks at the entire human race. Which power can compare? This time, Qin Daoxian waited longer. After a stick of incense. This time the scholar has disappeared, and only two people are left walking towards Qin Daoxian and the others. One of them is naturally Mo Qianfan, the Taoist of the creation realm, and the other is actually a heavenly venerate transcendence. This is the third heavenly venerate that Qin Daoxian has seen. This is the cultivation base of this heavenly venerate. Compared with Wuxia heavenly venerate and Silver Wing heavenly venerate, they are far away. They are just a three tribulations heavenly venerate. Although he is only the second robbery, he is the most peak existence of the human race, and his identity is there after all. It's just that Qin Daoxian didn't expect that this Guangyuan realm still has the three tribulations Tianzuan left behind. He thought that after the cultivators broke through to the tribulation period, they all rushed to the front line to sit in Xianqing. Seemingly seeing Qin Daoxian's doubts, the three tribulations heavenly venerate looked him up and down and said with a smile, "Are you the cultivator chosen by Wuxia heavenly venerate this time?" Qin Daoxian glanced at Mo Qianfan. He knew this was a secret that was not a secret. Simply, Qin Daoxian admitted generously, exactly. Knowing that the three tribulations heavenly venerate nodded, I am the same as you, except that I was the one who got the chance last time. In a few words, the three tribulations heavenly venerate immediately brought the relationship between the two closer. Under Qin Daoxian I have seen Tianzuan. What Tianzuan is not Tianzuan, my name is Xu Fang, if you want, just call me by my name. Qin Daoxian could hear the friendship in the other party's words. But it's not surprising when you think about it. Speaking of which, he, like Xu Fang, will become a heavenly venerate sooner or later. Isn't it normal for one heavenly venerate to befriend another heavenly venerate? Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian also put down his guard and cupped his hands. I have seen Brother Xu Fang. Okay. Xu Fang laughed and said, Brother Qin, I brought you all the fairy artifacts you asked for. Saying that, Xu Fang waved his hand directly. Immediately, 3 low-grade fairy artifacts appeared in front of Qin Daoxian. I only have these 3 immortal artifacts in my pavilion. If Brother Qin wants to choose, I have to apply to the general pavilion, but you will have to wait for a while. Qin Daoxian shook his head. Just pick from these 3. It is good. Bu Fang nodded. The 3 immortal weapons he brought, although in style, were 2 pure yang immortal swords and a cyan small axe. But in general, it covers the 3 grades of low-grade fairy artifact from low to high. Among the 3 immortal artifacts, the lowest quality is a pure yang immortal sword, which is priced at 10 million drops of the power of creation. The one with a higher quality is another pure yang immortal sword, priced at 50 million drops of the power of creation. And the highest quality is the cyan small axe, which is worth a full 100 million power of creation. Even if Xu Fang fetched the immortal artifact from the main pavilion, the highest grade low-grade immortal artifact was only a cyan small axe. Qin Daoxian didn't even look at the 2 pure yang swords, and directly set his eyes on the cyan small axe. After looking at the cyan small axe for a while, he turned to look at Xu Fang, pointed at it and asked, Brother Xu Fang, what is the price of this fairy weapon? Ha, Brother Qin has good eyesight, he picked out the treasure of my pavilion at a glance. He paused and raised a finger. This axe is called the Heaven-Shaking Axe, and it costs 100 million drops of the power of creation. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 498. 1 billion power of creation. When Qin Daoxian heard the price, he couldn't help but look at the cyan hatchet again. This cyan small axe is neither gold nor jade. If it weren't for the pure yang breath it exudes, no one would have thought that this is a pure yang fairy weapon. Speaking of which, this is the 3rd pure yang immortal artifact that Qin Daoxian has seen. At present, the highest grade pure yang immortal artifact he has come into contact with is his star kendo diagram, which is a high-grade immortal artifact. As for the Emperor Yu Bell in the hands of concubine Qinxue, it was just an ordinary low-grade fairy weapon. From this, you can imagine how terrifying the current star kendo map is. Qin Daoxian took the sky-shaking axe from Xu Fang and immediately injected a mana into it. Who would have guessed that with the mana of his creator, Dao Jun, entering the sky-shaking axe was like mud into the sea, and disappeared instantly? This? Qin Daoxian frowned. Seeing Qin Daoxian's confusion, Xu Fang explained, this is the fairy weapon. Compared with the ordinary magic weapon, the pure yang fairy weapon is difficult to activate with mana. If the monk wants to use ordinary magic power to activate it, he must pay for it. 100 times 1,000 times the mana. This is also the reason why most cultivators only use immortal weapons after they have reached the tribulation transcendent stage. After such an explanation, Qin Daoxian was immediately stunned. That's right, the difficulty of urging the Emperor Yes Bell is outrageous. It stands to reason that even if the mana of the Yuanian cultivator is far inferior to that of the Yuanshan Daojun and the tribulation cultivator, it will not take hundreds of years to cultivate and can only use the power of Yu Huangzhong's blow. Even the monks of Qianyuan Jianzong want to use it, they must use the formation method and the power of the whole sect to do it. This is too exaggerated. Now, through Xu Fang's explanation, Qin Daoxian finally knew the reason why the pure yang immortal artifact consumes mana terribly, that is, the quality of the mana is not enough to act as a power source to activate the immortal artifact. Only immortal power can perfectly motivate immortal weapons. The mana of the monks in the tribulation period has already begun to transform into immortal power, which can initially activate the pure yang immortal artifact. This is also the reason why the strength of the cultivator is much stronger than that of the creator of the realm after the cultivator has the immortal artifact. However, his own mana is not enough. What about the use of star surgery? Qin Daoxian wanted to give it a try. But in front of everyone he naturally wouldn't be reckless. Astrology is Qin Daoxian's biggest trump card at present, even the biggest trump card of the human race. Until the critical moment, Qin Daoxian will never use the constellation technique. Besides, once he uses the constellation technique, he doesn't need any sky-shaking axe, and it will be done with his fists. The power of the 1800 creators of the realm of Taoism is concentrated in him. Qin Daoxian feels that in terms of brute force, he is stronger than the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate. Maybe he can be tough with the Mahayana true immortal. After all, the magic of astral art is not something that should appear in the lower realm. Therefore, it is nothing to make the Daojun of the creation realm have a combat power comparable to that of the Mahayana true immortal. Okay, I bought this fairy. Qin Daoxian immediately made a decision. Brother Qin is so cool. Xu Fang raised a finger at him. Speaking of which, the quality of this heaven-shaking axe is better than the immortal weapon I used, brother. If it wasn't for me, I would be willing to sell it to you. Qin Daoxian only regarded this as a polite remark, smiled and didn't answer. So, she conveniently ordered Mo Qianfan to prepare all the other 2 treasures that Qin Daoxian wanted. After taking the 2 storage rings handed over by Xu Fang, Qin Daoxian checked it, and after confirming that it was correct, he paid all the money. The 3 treasures cost Qin Daoxian a total of 140 million fortune-telling power. The Saint Yuan pill used by the Yuanian cultivator was nothing, and the remaining 40 million power of creation was mainly used to buy golden crow fragments. Most of the golden crow fragments come from the major relic worlds in Liangjiuan. Prices vary according to their size. Some golden crow fragments are only worth 1 million fortune power, while some can even exceed 100 million fortune power. But usually the value of the golden crow fragments hovers around the power of 1 million fortunes, and generally does not exceed the level of the power of 10 million fortunes. Qin Daoxian was lucky this time and bought a piece of golden crow worth 15 million fortune power. Inside the storage ring, the size of this golden crow fragment is obviously larger than the other golden crow fragments. Even if there is a special ban on Chuanbao Pavilion to imprison it, other golden crow shards are overshadowed by it. Qin Daoxian is buying immortal artifacts and golden crow fragments again, and his main purpose is of course to fight for this chance to cross the robbery. According to Wuha Tianzuan, this time he prepared a total of 7 candidates, but there is only one place for the opportunity to cross the robbery. That is to say, Qin Daoxian has to defeat the other 6 Taoist creators in order to successfully get this spot. Sui said that this situation was a little different from what Wuha Tianzuan said when he brought him to Guangyuan realm, but Qin Daoxian did not complain about him. The opportunity to cross the robbery. For any cultivator in the world, this is an elusive fate. And Wuha Tianzuan gave them 7 people like this, and never asked for anything in return. This kind of behavior Qin Daoxian couldn't even ask himself. For such a senior, what qualifications does Qin Daoxian have to ask for more? Choosing one of the 7 people is also to ensure that one can maximize the number of transcending tribulations heavenly venerate. Although the opportunity of transcending the robbery in Guangyuan realm can make creation realm reach the sky in one step, this kind of thing is not absolute. In history there have been cases where the Daojun of the creation realm failed to transcend the calamity, so the heavenly venerates had to be cautious. The money and the goods are gone. Xu Fang and Mo Qianfan personally sent Qin Daoxian to the entrance of Chuanbao Pavilion. Brother Xu Fang, there is no need to send more. Qin Daoxian bowed his hands. Okay, then I'm here to congratulate Brother Qin on getting through the calamity as soon as possible. In the future, Brother Qin will open a mansion in Tianzuan Mountain. Be sure to invite me for a drink. Xu Fang is so cool. Must? Qin Daoxian said with a smile. Watching Qin Daoxian leave, Mo Qianfan said puzzled. Why does Tianzuan value this person so much? As far as I know, Wuha Tianzuan has always chosen a number of Taoist creators, and then let them compete. This Taoist friend may not be the final candidate. Xu Fang said with an expressionless face, this person will definitely get the spot this time. This? Mo Qianfan was even more puzzled. But Xu Fang didn't mean to explain, and walked straight towards the Chuanbao Pavilion. He would never tell Mo Qianfan that when he saw Qin Daoxian for the first time, he felt a sense of horror. Xu Fang knew that this was his spiritual warning. The high-level cultivator's mental early warning is extremely accurate, and he will not be warned for no reason. The only explanation is that this Qin Daoxian's real strength is even more terrifying than him. What is this concept? A Daojun of creation realm? his strength is actually stronger than his 3 tribulations heavenly venerate. This kind of character does not even want to take this opportunity to cross the robbery. If he continues to grow, he is afraid that he will be another Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate and Ancient Sword Heavenly Venerate. The human-like combat power ceiling. To be able to befriend this kind of character in advance, Xu Fang is naturally eager. You must know that with his cultivation, sooner or later, a fairy city that guards the human race will be released. At that time, in case of encountering a large-scale demon tide, you will have to rely on the top powerhouses like Silver Wing Tianzuan to rescue them. The human race's line of defense is extremely long, and there are many main cities and acropolis. Whether they can wait for rescue depends on the luck of Xiancheng's defense. At this time, if you have a good relationship with the top heavenly venerate who rescued him, maybe he will be rescued first. Just like the siege of Yaoguang City last time, Ini Tianzuan rushed over immediately, because the intersection of Ini Tianzuan and Wuha Tianzuan was irreversible. In exchange for another ordinary heavenly venerate, although Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate would also go to the rescue, he would not be so active and desperate. This is a very fatal thing for Tianzuan who is in crisis. In view of this, the beam side will naturally invest in advance. At the step of Tianzuan, the road has basically come to an end. Unless the human race can defeat the real monsters and reverse the pattern of the real demon world engulfing the Phoenix Meteor world, or the human race can upgrade the Guangyuan world to a world at the same level as the real monster world and the Phoenix Meteor world. Otherwise, if you want to break through to the Mahayana True Immortal, there is no hope at all. The road is hopeless. In addition to improving their own strength as much as possible, the Tianzuan can only develop human connections. To a certain extent, Wuha Tianzuan is also a means to develop personal connections. Of course, Wuha Tianzuan has no power behind him, otherwise he would not choose unfamiliar junior monks to cultivate, but would choose his own junior disciples. This is human nature, nothing wrong. Leave Chuanbao Pavilion. Only then did Luo Li breathe a sigh of relief, patted his chest and said, I feel that the heavenly venerates in Guangyuan realm are very kind. The 5 Rivers Heavenly Venerate is like this, and so is this heavenly venerate named Xu Fang. Qin Daoxian shook his head. Don't think that all heavenly venerates are kind, except that Wuha Heavenly Venerate is indeed a kind person. Other heavenly venerates may not be like this. Luo Li is not stupid, Qin Daoxian reacted immediately. Indeed, if Qin Daoxian had the value of making friends, how could the dignified heavenly venerate of the human race call you brothers and sisters? Shaking his head, without thinking about these complicated issues, Luo Li excitedly said, Now, should you accompany me to the demon fighting arena? It is good. Qin Daoxian looked at him dotingly. Although he had no interest in the demon fighting arena, it didn't prevent him from going around with Luo Li. The two of them drove the escape light and soon came to the largest demon fighting arena in the immortal city of Buddha. 2 Worlds Buddha. Luo Li looked at the 7-story tower-shaped building in front of her and muttered the words on the plaque. Qin Daoxian knew that in the inner domain world, no building could be viewed from the surface, thanks to the popularity of Jianghu. It can be said that not only the Guangyuan realm, but any building in the inner realm world has a unique interior. In Shenyuan, it seems to be very tall, but it has become a standard in this inner domain. The two stepped into the tower called the 2 Realms Buddha. Immediately, it was as if he had traveled through, and he came to a world with different styles. Qin Daoxian's consciousness expanded a little, and he found out the size of this cave in an instant. It's just a cave created by a Taoist-level Jianghu. It seems that the backstage of this demon fighting field is not very good. Qin Daoxian secretly said. Unlike Chuanbao Pavilion, even if it is a sub-pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion, the inner cave world is built by a Jianghu left by a heavenly venerate world demon. And the so-called first demon fighting field in the immortal city of Buddha seems a little less atmospheric. Of course, this is also related to the strength gap between the two sides. Chuanbao Pavilion is one of the top forces in the human race, and this demon fighting field is only known as the number 1 demon fighting field in the Buddha Fairy City. No one else knows about this demon fighting field after leaving the Buddha Fairy City. Besides, this Buddha Immortal City was originally built for the entertainment of the descendants of Tianzuan. Even if there is a background in this so-called first demon fighting field in the immortal city of Buddha, it is at most a background of the descendant of Tianzuan. The descendants of Tianzuan seem to be very intimidating. But the descendants of Tianzuan who have been huddled in Tianzuan Mountain for a long time are all people with poor talent, such as Sister Ran Lingxi. The truly outstanding descendants of Tianzuan will never stay in Tianzuan Mountain comfortably, not even in the inner world, but fight with the monsters in the outer battlefield. This is also the reason why Qin Daoxian lacks interest in the demon fighting field. How can people who have seen the real battlefield be interested in the things that children play at home? However, Luoli had never been to an extraterritorial battlefield, so it was a good thing for him to experience the world monsters fighting each other in advance. Enter the battle arena. Qin Daoxian called a servant and asked, "Do you still have the most recent battle of the demons?" This little servant only has the cultivation base of Zifu. He looked at Qin Daoxian and Luoli, and found that he could not see the cultivation base of the two, and his attitude immediately became respectful. "Senior, our latest battle between world demons was in a month later." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian frowned. He didn't want to wait here for a month. Seeing Qin Daoxian frowning, Luoli hesitated, "Otherwise we should not watch it." "Senior, although the battle between the world monsters is a month away, an hour later, there will be a duel between the monks and the world monsters." Speaking of this, the little servant raised his eyebrows. "The cultivator fights with the world demon, presumably the senior has never seen it before?" The battle between monks and demons is happening all the time on the battlefield outside the territory. Qin Daoxian suppressed his anger and said in a low tone. Suddenly being scolded by such a sentence, the young servant of the Zifu period was speechless. Glancing at him, Qin Daoxian also knew that he was just running errands, and this kind of thing was not something the other party could decide, so he said, "Give me a ticket." "Good, good." The servant nodded. The ticket price is divided into 3 classes, 1 drop of fortune power for ordinary tickets, 100 drops of fortune power for box tickets, and 1,000 drops of fortune power for VIP boxes. Qin Daoxian gave him a deep look. "Really do business. Get me a VIP box." "Yes, senior." The little servant immediately took out a ticket with complex lines and handed it over. "This is your VIP ticket, please keep it." Qin Daoxian nodded and paid. The servant wanted to say something to please, but when he saw Qin Daoxian's gloomy face, he immediately cupped his hands and said, "I wish the seniors have a good time and the juniors leave." Qin Daoxian waved his hand, and the little servant left quickly as if he had been granted amnesty. Holding the ticket in his hand, Qin Daoxian injected a mana, and immediately projected a virtual image from the ticket, showing the location of the VIP box. Qin Daoxian swept his consciousness and quickly locked the position of the box. Then a teleportation took Luo Li to the box. For Qin Daoxian, the formation outside the box was completely useless. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website. WAP. Chapter 499. The demon fighting field is located directly below the VIP box, surrounded by numerous formations to prevent the demons from rushing out and hurting people. After all, many of the target customer groups of this demon fighting arena are descendants of Tianzuan, and they can't afford to hurt the descendants of a big boss. Sit in the VIP box. Qin Daoxian's consciousness was wanting to probe the entire demon fighting field. With his current cultivation base, unless there is a celestial venerable in the demon fighting field, no one will be able to spot his movements. But how could there be Tianzuan in this entertainment situation, which is why Qin Daoxian is blatant. As time went by, the atmosphere at the scene became more and more lively. Even in the VIP box, Qin Daoxian's ears could hear the enthusiastic noise in the field. Only then did Qin Daoxian and Luo Li realize that in order to maintain the atmosphere of the scene, the VIP box had not even set up a soundproof formation. Really? Luo Li was infected by the warm atmosphere at the scene, and there was a hint of excitement on her little face. Qin Daoxian's face was calm. This kind of small scene can't arouse his mood swings at all, and only people who have never seen the battle between the human race and the world monster will be so interested in the confrontation between the monk and the world monster. An hour passed quickly. With the voice of the host of the show off, the field fell. An elegant male cultivator, dressed in spirit armor, stood in the center of the arena. On the other side, a Daojuan-level alien beast world demon who was restrained and imprisoned also appeared in Qin Daoxian's sight. Seeing these two, Luo Li didn't feel anything, but Qin Daoxian suddenly stood up from his seat. "Qin Lang, what's wrong?" Luo Li wondered. Qin Daoxian didn't answer but frowned and muttered, "Why is he here?" The person Qin Daoxian spoke of was none other than Qin Daoxian's great enemy in Fengyun world, Xiao Yuhua. At the beginning, Xiao Yuhua did not hesitate to use various means to deal with Qin Daoxian and Qinyuan sword sect in order to seize the treasure of the Qinyuan sword sect, Yu Huangzhong. First, he wanted to get Yu Huangzhong by marrying his concubine Qin Shui, but after seeing that he couldn't get it out of hand, He simply came and colluded with the Situ family, an affiliated family of Wuxia men, and attacked the northwestern sects by force. If it wasn't for Qin Daoxuan's efforts to turn the tide, the entire northwestern part of the Phoenix Meteor realm would have already fallen into the hands of the Situ family, and the Emperor Yuzhong had also become Xiao Yuhua's possession. But why is Xiao Yuhua in Guangyuan realm? If he remembered correctly, Xiao Yuhua should have gone to serve in the battlefield outside the territory just like him. Qin Daoxian recalled carefully. It seems that when he and Fei Qinxue went to serve in the field outside the territory together, he never saw this Xiao Yuhua. Unexpectedly he came to Guangyuan realm. The so-called enemies are particularly jealous when they meet, but Qin Daoxian doesn't know what Xiao Yuhua's fate is now, and he doesn't act rashly. Because he knew that if there was no backer, Xiao Yuhua would not be able to escape the conscription law of Tianzuan City. It is not a wise move to make a rash move without knowing Xiao Yuhua's backing. It is true that with Qin Daoxuan's current strength, he is already qualified to act recklessly, but he does not want to do so, because he always remembers that his biggest enemy is not a certain force or monk of the human race, but the monster. The strength he is hiding now may become the biggest bargaining chip for the human race in the future. Of course, Qin Daoxian will not expose it for a small Xiao Yuhua. Thoughts twitched in his mind. Qin Daoxian turned his head to look at Luo Li with a smile and said warmly, "It's okay. I'm just curious about the appearance of this world monster. It seems that I have never seen it before." Hearing this, Luo Li immediately laughed. It's not surprising, there are many kinds of world monsters in the real monster world, and some world monsters from small races, Qin Lang, have never seen them before, so it's normal. Well, what Liar said makes sense. Look, the battle has begun. Luo Li said and turned to look at the demon fighting field. Just as Luo Li said, the battle became intensified from the very beginning. Of course, Qin Daoxian didn't like a battle scene of this level at all, and with his eyes he could see at a glance that Xiao Yuhua's strength was above this Daojuan level monster. If it wasn't for Xiao Yuhua's intention to suppress his own strength, this so-called battle would have ended long ago. But that didn't stop the spectators from betting wildly for the outcome of the battle between the two. In the profit of Do Yaochang, the ticket price is only an insignificant part, and gambling is the biggest income. Seeing that Luo Li was eager to try, Qin Daoxian called for a waitress in the box and said, "I want to bet now, can I?" The waitress only had a foundation building stage of cultivation. Facing a senior like Qin Daoxian who didn't know the depth of his cultivation, he was very uneasy in his heart. How could he dare to say nothing? She lowered her head immediately and Fushin said quickly, "Senior, you can bet before the winner is decided, but the odds will keep changing." Of course Qin Daoxian knew this. But now Xiao Yuhua has the upper hand, and the alien beast world demon was defeated by him. According to this rhythm, it won't be long before Xiao Yuhua can cut off the head of this world monster. Now Xiao Yuhua's odds against the world demon have risen to about 7 to 1. That is, to suppress Xiao Yuhua 7 drops of the power of good fortune, he can only get 1 drop of the power of good fortune if he wins Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian asked casually, "How much fortune is there in the gambling pool now?" "This?" It stands to reason that this kind of information is generally not disclosed to the outside world, but since it dares to open, it naturally takes into account various situations. Just like now, the waitress in the VIP box quickly said bluntly, "Senior, the current gambling pool has exceeded 40 million fortune." Heard. Qin Daoxian glanced at the audience who were not very high in cultivation, and could not help but feel that these people were really rich. "Okay, since this is the case, I will press 40 million of the power of creation, and I will press the demon to win." Hearing that Qin Daoxian was going to bet 40 million for the power of creation, the waitress was so frightened that her face paled. Even Luo Li looked at Qin Daoxian curiously. She didn't know why Qin Daoxian was so impulsive. You must know that although the power of 40 million creation is not much to the Qin family, it is a considerable sum even for Tianzuan. You know, at this price, you can already buy a low-quality fairy artifact of not bad quality. However, Qin Daoxian took it out as a bet without changing his face. "Senior." The waitress shivered, so frightened that she couldn't speak. "What, do you limit bets in the demon fighting arena?" The waitress was startled and shook her head frantically. "All right then, bet for me." With that said, Qin Daoxian threw a storage ring at will. "There are 100 million fortune-telling powers in it. Give it to me after placing the bet." The waitress took the storage ring thrown by Qin Daoxian, and her little hand seemed to be dragging a mountain, trembling uncontrollably. "So." The waitress hurried out of the VIP box. At this time Luo Li finally couldn't help but ask, Qin Lang, you are. I want to meet the master behind this demon fighting field. It was not what Qin Daoxian expected. Just before the waitress in the box went out for less than a cup of tea, a young man in luxurious clothes rushed outside Qin Daoxian's box with a Daojun of the Creator Realm. The young monk stood outside Qin Daoxian's box, cupped his hands and said, Junior Taiyin sect disciple He Yinyan, please see the senior. Qin Daoxian's consciousness swept across He Yinyan's body and said casually, come in. Thank you, senior. The cultivator named He Yinyan, before walking into the box, said to the Creator Realm next to him, Old Chu, please stay here and don't let outsiders disturb my conversation with senior. Little Lord. Old Chu frowned as if he was worried about the safety of He Yinyan. He Yinyan looked relaxed and said with a smile, don't worry, this is at the foot of Tianzuan Mountain. At this time, Qin Daoxian's voice sounded in their ears again, you two don't have to sing double reeds, let's come in together. Heard. He Yinyan and Chu Lao looked at each other and walked towards the box together. When He Yinyan saw a monk who looked younger than him sitting in the box, he couldn't help being completely shocked. Although a cultivator cannot tell his age from his appearance, if a cultivator does not take the beauty-preserving medicinal herbs, his youthful appearance can also roughly judge how much his lifespan is left. The more life essence a monk has left, the more vitality he has, and the younger he looks. For example, Old Man Chu beside He Yinyan, because he has not much lifespan left, that's why he looks old. Otherwise, a Daojun of creation realm of the right age will never act as a guard for him, even if he is a descendant of Tianzuan. Seeing Qin Daoxian, He Yinyan immediately guessed the origin of the other party. He is so young and he is the Taoist of the creation realm. Presumably the other party is here to compete for the once-in-thousand-year-long tribulation opportunity in the Guangyuan realm, and even the other party is very likely to be the winner of the default quota. This means that the Daojun of creation realm in front of him is already a quasi-celestial lord. God. Thinking of this, He Yinyan's eyes showed a touch of envy and jealousy. That's right, although he was born very well, he is the son of Tianzuan, but his own talent is not very good, especially his understanding. Even with the help of the abyss of Tianzuan Mountain, it took him more than 1,000 years to cultivate to the primordial spirit stage. As for the breakthrough to the primordial spirit stage, his cultivation became more and more slow, so much so that in the end it was completely stagnant. Unable to break through to the transcending tribulation period, if nothing else, his lifespan is only 10,000 years at most. 10,000 years of life is very long in the eyes of mortals, but for high-level monks, it is just like that. The senior Tianzuan of the human race, which one is not an old monster who has lived for tens of thousands of years. In addition to Shouyuan, what makes He Yinyan unacceptable is status. Don't think that he needs wind and rain in the immortal city of Buddha, but he knows in his heart that in the eyes of the real elites of the human race, he is just a trivial person. Just like in front of this creator realm Daojun. He Yinyan was looking at Qin Daoxian, and Qin Daoxian was also observing him. You are the boss of this demon fighting field? He Yinyan bowed his hands and said respectfully, the younger generation is not talented, this demon fighting field is indeed the next industry. Qin Daoxian nodded, since that's the case, I'll just say it straight, I have a grudge with the cultivator off the court who fought the world demon, so I want to buy him to lose. After all, Qin Daoxian looked at He Yinyan lightly. Old Chu, who was beside He Yinyan, seemed to feel the terrifying pressure from Qin Daoxian, and he didn't dare to say a word. At this moment, He Yinyan only felt that the pressure on his body was getting heavier and heavier. Just when he couldn't hold it anymore, he hurriedly said loudly, Senior, I am the son of the 9 regions heavenly venerate. Is that your answer? Feeling that the pressure surrounding his body was gone, He Yinyan took a deep breath. He cupped his hands and said, I don't know what kind of grievance seniors and Dao Yu Shao have, but the so-called enemy should be resolved rather than knotted. The junior is willing to be the host and resolve this grievance for the seniors and Dao Yu Shao, how about it? Get out. Qin Daoxian said lightly. Senior? Qin Daoxian glanced at him indifferently, thousands of words stuck in He Yinyan's throat, making him unable to say a word again. Junior retire. Crane Yinyan bowed his hands and walked out of the box. The waitress walked into the box tremblingly, and respectfully presented a tray, which contained Qin Daoxian's storage ring. Qin Daoxian took the storage ring and swept away his consciousness, but found that the power of creation inside had not moved. Next moment, facing the surprised eyes of Luo Li and the waitress, Qin Daoxian stood up directly. As soon as he waved his hand, the box was directly shattered by him. Immediately afterwards, Qin Daoxian walked in the air, walking towards the center of the demon fighting field step by step. This time, the crazy audience in the field finally noticed the movement on Qin Daoxuan's side. The location of the VIP box is directly above the Do Yaochang, while the general audience and boxes are below the VIP box. Qin Daoxian walked in the sky step by step, just above the heads and in front of these audiences, and they could not pay attention to Qin Daoxian. Yin Yin, who had just walked out of Qin Daoxuan's box, also noticed Qin Daoxuan's actions. At this moment, his face became ashen. Yin Yin did not expect that the other party would dare to be so blatant. You must know that this is at the foot of Tianzuan Mountain. Presumptuous. Yin Yin was furious and shouted in a low voice, "Old Chu! Young master, rest assured." Old Chu gave a reply, and flew towards Qin Daoxian with the escape light. Unexpectedly, before Chu Lao approached, 10 golden light spots flew towards Chu Lao. When Mr. Chu saw the 10 golden light spots clearly, his liver trembled with fright and he exclaimed, "Six-star Taoist soldiers." This time, Old Chu is still in charge of Qin Daoxian, 10 six-star Taoist soldiers. It is not bad that he can save his life. Fortunately, Qin Daoxian had no intention of killing him. Qin Daoxuan's only target is Xiao Yuhua in the demon fighting arena. Walking to the front of the demon fighting field, Qin Daoxuan's footsteps were finally blocked, but not by someone but by the formation. In order to protect the safety of the demon fighting field, the formation used in this demon fighting field was arranged by Tianzuan himself. According to the Tianzuan, this formation was indestructible by the Tianzuan. Qin Daoxian himself is a sixth-order formation mage. Coupled with his painstaking efforts to comprehend the Zhou Tianxing du Great Array, his formation skills have skyrocketed. At a glance, he could see the extraordinariness of this formation. Unfortunately, although Qin Daoxian could not break the formation quickly, he also saw the weakness of this protective formation. I saw Qin Daoxian teleport, and his figure appeared directly at the weak point of the formation. Then he took out the heaven-shaking axe he just bought from Chuanbao Pavilion, and his mana rushed towards the heaven-shaking axe. With the crazy injection of mana, the shape of the heaven-shaking axe finally changed. From a small blue axe the size of a palm, to a giant axe as tall as a person. The next moment, Qin Daoxian held up this giant axe that was taller than him, facing Xiao Yua's terrified gaze, and slashed towards the formation with an axe. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 500. Boom, a bang sounded like thunder. Immediately afterwards, the formation light curtain on the periphery of the demon fighting field was like pieces of broken glass, shattering piece by piece. On the battlefield, Xiao Yuhua looked at Qin Daoxian, who was holding the cyan giant axe. His heart was beating like a drum. In his impression, an unforgettable figure was slowly overlapping Qin Daoxuan's figure. Although this is the first time the two have met as a pair of old enemies, the two have long been familiar with each other's looks and aura. To put it in a bad way, if the two of them were not suppressed by Tianzuan City, they would have met each other long ago. Qin Daoxian. Xiao Yua's voice trembled. On the other hand, Qin Daoxuan's face was extremely calm. He had thought about how he would feel when he met Xiao Yuhua. But when he really met, Qin Daoxian found that he didn't have much hatred for Xiao Yuhua, but just calm. Xiao Yuhua was completely irritated by Qin Daoxuan's aloof appearance. Just as he was about to say something, his opponent, the world demon who was temporarily trapped by his secret technique, finally broke the ban and rushed towards him. Xiao Yuhua turned around abruptly and was in a hurry again. Seeing Xiao Yuhua's funny appearance, Qin Daoxian didn't want to play with the other party. In a flash, he appeared between Xiao Yuhua and the unknown world monster. Boom! The huge demon body of the world demon slammed into Qin Daoxian, as if hitting an invisible barrier, and the huge demon body was bounced out directly. Being hit hard by this, the world demon kept shaking its head. "What the do you want?" Xiao Yuhua's voice trembled even more. "I tell you, this is at the foot of Tianzuan Mountain. Don't be presumptuous." "Are you afraid?" Qin Daoxian looked at him calmly. Hearing this, Xiao Yuhua was completely enraged. Just when Qin Daoxian thought that the other party would recklessly attack him, the other party made a move that caught him off guard. That is, he turned around and ran. How fast is the escaping speed of the Taoist on the third floor of the world? If Qin Daoxian had not blocked the entire space of the demon fighting field, Xiao Yuhua would have used teleportation to escape. "Run? Can you run?" Qin Daoxian shook his head, stretched out his palm at will and waved lightly. Xiao Yua's figure flew towards the position of Qin Daoxuan's palm at several times the speed of the light. Do not. Xiao Yuhua realized something and shouted wildly, "You can't kill me, I'm a disciple of Wuji Immortal Sect. Killing me is equal to provoking Taiyin Sect. Young Master He, save me." However, the young Master Heian in his mouth was pursing his lips tightly at the moment, and said nothing. As for saving Xiao Yuhua? Don't be kidding, didn't you see that his guardian Chu Lao was trapped by 10 six-star Taoist soldiers? Not to mention saving Xiao Yuhua, now old Chu and his life are in the hands of Qin Daoxian. Although he is the son of Jiyu Tianzuan, he is only one of the children of Jiyu Tianzuan, and he is the one with the worst talent. Speaking of which, he himself hadn't seen his father for hundreds of years. If Qin Daoxian beheaded him, Jiyu Tianzuan may seek revenge for Qin Daoxian, but if he just kills Xiao Yuhua, it is estimated that no one will care about a small phoenix cultivator. Besides, is Qin Daoxian an ordinary Daojun of the realm of creation? Not to mention that he is about to obtain the once-in-thousand-year-old opportunity of the Guangyuan realm to cross the robbery. Even the six-star Taoist soldiers in his hands are enough to let him walk sideways in the creation realm. Even if it is Tianzuan without an immortal weapon, it is estimated that it is not Qin Daoxuan's opponent. How dare Heian speak? Xiao Yuhua was completely desperate when he saw that Heian didn't say a word. He began to frantically bite and said, "Heian, you don't save me, do you want me to take bribes from you and help people avoid the recruitment of Tianzuan City to the public?" Heian's face changed suddenly upon hearing this threat, and he hurriedly cupped his hands to Qin Daoxian. "Senior Qin, this man is full of nonsense, so please don't believe me. I suspect that this man is escaping from the call for the purpose of lurking in the Guangyuan realm to seek information. Li is definitely the spy of the world demon who was demolished in the human race." Oh. Qin Daoxian saw that Xiao Yuhua was still talking, so he grabbed his neck with one hand, sealed his six senses, and made him shut up completely. "Do you have any evidence for this? Senior, please see." With a flash of light, Heian quickly flew to Qin Daoxian, and respectfully took out a photo stone from the storage ring. "This is the evidence of Xiao Yua's collaborating with the enemy." Qin Daoxian took over the so-called evidence of Xiao Yua's crime from Heian. Sure enough, what this photo stone recorded was the photo of Xiao Yuhua reporting information to a Taoist-level demon. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian took a deep look at Heian and said, "If that's the case, why didn't you report it earlier? Senior, forgive me, this junior wants to observe for a while, so that I can follow the vines and catch the line of Xiao Yuhua." Heian bowed. Since he was captured by the senior today, the junior will hand over this crime to the senior to deal with together. Qin Daoxian glanced at him. "Then what happened when he said you took bribes to help him escape from Tianzuan City? Senior Mingcha, how can you trust the words of such a spy? Makes sense." Qin Daoxian nodded. "I will inform Wuha Tianzuan about this matter. If he is really a spy of the world demon, you will make a great contribution today. If not..." Qin Daoxian snorted softly and waved the heaven-shaking axe, and the world demon that finally recovered was directly split into nothingness by Qin Daoxian. Seeing this, Heian felt tight in his heart and quickly assured, "Senior, don't worry, this scorpion is definitely a spy of the world demon." Qin Daoxian nodded, put away the heaven-shaking axe and the shadow stone, and trapped Xiao Yuhua with a space cage. With a flash, Qin Daoxian returned to the box again. Glancing at old Chu, who was besieged by insect soldiers, he took Luo Li away with him. Heian saw old Chu, who was in danger, and hurriedly shouted at Qin Daoxian, "Senior." It's just that before he finished speaking, 10 six-star Taoist soldiers turned into 10 golden light spots and flew towards Qin Daoxuan's escape light quickly. Looking at the dying old Chu Lao, Heian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Finally gone. He looked at Qin Daoxuan's passing away and said silently. Immediately, his consciousness swept across the entire demon fighting arena and said to the audience in the demon fighting arena, "Please keep today's affairs a secret." After all, Heian's figure also disappeared. He knew that the talk of secrecy was just his attitude towards Tianzuan Mountain. Many of the audience in this demon fighting arena are descendants of Heavenly Venerate, and they are not afraid of Heian's threat at all. In other words, this matter will soon be known to everyone. However, Heian was not worried. When he received Xiao Yuhua or Wuji Xianmen bribe, he had already prepared his way back. The photo stone he gave to Qin Daoxian was just one of the backers he prepared. In the hands of Heian, there is even a photo stone that the Wuji Xianmen high-level executives and the world monsters exchanged with. Of course, these are all fakes. Just the nomination certificate left by Wuji Immortal Sect after going through the back door here. Otherwise, what if Wuji Xianmen threatened him with bribery? You must know that helping the cultivator escape the conscription of Tianzuan City is a serious crime. With this kind of punishment, even his father, the 9 regions heavenly venerate, would find it difficult to protect him, especially since he has shielded a large number of Yuanshan Daijins from the Phoenix realm and even the inner territory over the years, helping them evade military service. Once this incident is exposed, He Yinyan will surely die. On the way back to Tianzuan Mountain, Luo Li's head was still foggy at the moment. She looked at Qin Daoxian beside her and asked, "Qin Lang, why did Xiao Yuhua become a spy of the world demon?" Haha, He Yinyan's words are nothing more than deceiving ghosts. Qin Daoxian said coldly. He Yinyan would certainly not be able to deceive Qin Daoxian. If Xiao Yuhua had the ability, he would work so hard for an immortal weapon of Qinyuan sword sect. If he was a real spy, would he still be afraid of military service? Is not this contradictory? The only explanation is that the photo stone in his hand is a perjury deliberately made by He Yinyan. Only if Xiao Yuhua and the others agreed to record these perjury, He Yinyan would agree to help them escape the summons from Tianzuan City. In the end, it's just a nomination. But this name vote is enough to kill Xiao Yuhua. In fact, whether it is Xiao Yuhua escaping military service or Xiao Yuhua acting as a spy of the world demon, he is dead. Qin Daoxian is not in a hurry to kill the opponent now. He wants to use Xiao Yuhua as a bait to catch bigger fish. Qin Daoxian did not explain, but Luo Li was still a little confused. But she believed that Aero would take care of everything. Indeed, Qin Daoxian is now dealing with this from the perspective of the superior. Compared with Xiao Yuhua and He Yinyan, he is the referee, and the other party is the one judged by him. This change in status is all brought about by strength. If he is just an ordinary Yuanshan Daojun now, it is absolutely impossible for He Yinyan to bow his head, let alone hand over Xiao Yuhua and put his criminal evidence in his hands. Return to Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion. Qin Daoxian found Wuhe Tianzuan immediately. The world demon spies? Wuhe Tianzuan looked at Xiao Yuhua, who was banned by Qin Daoxian with 6 senses, and glanced at Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian nodded, waved his hand and released Xiao Yuhua's ban. Oh, oh, oh. As soon as the ban was lifted, Xiao Yuhua gasped frantically like someone who was saved from drowning. Qin Daoxian Yu. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Yuhua noticed Wuhe Tianzuan not far away. He looked at Wuhe Tianzuan, but found that he couldn't see the other's cultivation base at all. Seeing this, Xiao Yuhua hurriedly knelt to the ground and kowtowed, "Junior pays respects to Tianzuan." Seeing his appearance, Wuhe Tianzuan didn't talk nonsense and asked directly, "I will ask you what is going on?" Saying that, Wuhe Tianzuan inspired the photo stone, and immediately, the evidence of Xiao Yuhua's illicit affair with the world demon was presented in front of the 3 of them. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yuhua's face turned completely pale. He knew that he was doomed. Xiao Yuhua couldn't help but shouted bitterly, "He Yinyan, you are ruthless." Seemingly hearing Xiao Yuhua's implication, Wuhe Tianzuan continued to ask, "You mean the content recorded in this photo stone was fabricated by He Yinyan?" Xiao Yuhua's expression changed, but in the end he didn't say a word. "Xiao Yuhua, do you want to help He Yinyan resist all the guilt? You know, he wants only you to die." Qin Daoxian, you don't need to waste your words. Cooperating with the enemy is death, refusing military service is also death, and both sides are dead. What do you want me to say? Heard. Qin Daoxian and Wuhe Tianzuan looked at each other and smiled. Qin Daoxian coughed and said, "Xiao Yuhua, collaborating with the enemy must be a capital crime. This is the iron law of the human race, but refusal to perform military service is not necessarily a capital crime, especially if you have committed crimes and meritorious service." What did you say? Xiao Yuhua grabbed the last straw like a drowning man. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something again. "But so what? I offended you, will you still let me go?" Qin Daoxian shook his head. "Think about it carefully, although you have offended me, but you and I have fought several times, but who has the upper hand? Why should I hate you?" This sentence made Xiao Yuhua hope again. That's right, although Xiao Yuhua offended Qin Daoxian, he suffered heavy losses when he confronted Qin Daoxian. On the other hand, Qin Daoxian not only lost nothing, but also took the opportunity to take the entire Northwest land into his pocket. Speaking of which, he should be Qin Daoxian's benefactor. Qin Daoxian didn't know what Xiao Yuhua was thinking at this time, otherwise he would definitely be laughed at by the other party's brazenness. Seeing that Xiao Yuhua's psychological defense line was completely broken, Wuhe Tianzuan asked again, "Tell me what is going on?" "Yes. Xiao Yuhua immediately revealed everything. It turned out that Wuji Xianmen and He Yinian colluded to help Yuanshan Daojun in their sect and their sphere of influence escape military service, not once or twice. The two have a long-term cooperation. It can be said that about half of Yuanshan Daojun under Wuji Xianmen have evaded military service. It was also by chance that Xiao Yuhua knew this secret inside the door. When he knew this secret, Xiao Yuhua scattered his family wealth and chose to desert military service. To avoid military service, not only a lot of money, but also a certificate of vote for He Yinyan, which is the photo stone that He Yinyan gave to Qin Daoxian. Is there any evidence for what you said? Xiao Yuhua glanced at Qin Daoxian. Yes, of course there is. Not only me but all the sect masters and elders in my sect have registered their names with He Yinyan. Can't everyone in my Promise Immortal sect be all spies, right? And you can also check how many primordial spirit cultivators He Yinyan has secretly helped me and Wuji Xianmen to escape military service over the years. Having said that, things are almost clear. Qin Daoxian and Wu He Tianzuan knew in their hearts that this incident was not a human spy, but that He Yinyan took bribes to help Wuji Xianmen escape from military service. And it is a large-scale help Wuji Xianmen deserters. Thinking about it too, this He Yinyan is said to be just a child of Jiyu Tianzuan who is not valued, but Qin Daoxian sees his appearance, but he does not lack money at all. You know, it's just a monster fight, and the betting chips can reach 50 million drops of the power of creation, which is almost comparable to a low-quality fairy weapon of good quality. As a dealer, the wealth of He Yinyan can be imagined. Where did the money come from in He Yinyan? It's not like he has the ability to extract the power of creation from industry like Qin Daoxian, right? Daoxian. Wu He Tianzuan looked at Qin Daoxian. Heavenly Venerable. Qin Daoxian bowed his hands. Let's put this matter down first and wait until you break through the tribulation transcendence period before thinking about it in the long run. Although He Yinian is nothing, his father Jiyu Tianzuan is one of the top Tianzuan of my human race. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian tentatively asked, is it like the silver-winged Tianzuan? Wu He Tianzuan shook his head. 9 regions is the main town guard. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian immediately understood. Qin Daoxian wants to move He Yinian now, and it is not small, unless Wu He Tianzuan personally takes action. But Wu He Tianzuan is also going to survive the 8th Thunder Calamity, and he has no time to pay attention to these trivial matters now. As long as you successfully transcend the tribulation in the Guangyuan Thunder Sea, these things are just trivial matters. Wu He Tianzuan said indifferently. Brother Shen. Shen Changqing was walking on the road, and when he met someone he knew, he would say hello or nod to each other. But no matter who. Everyone's face has no superfluous expressions, as if they are very indifferent to everything. To this, Shen Changqing is used to it. Because this is the Ministry of Suppression, it is an organization that maintains the stability of Daqin. Its main responsibility is to kill monsters and monsters. Of course, there are also some other side jobs. It can be said. In the Demon Suppression Division, everyone had a lot of blood on their hands. When a person is used to seeing life and death, he will become indifferent to many things. When he first came to this world, Shen Changqing was a little uncomfortable, but over time he got used to it. The town magic department is very big. Those who can stay in the town demon division are all powerful masters, or those who have the potential to become masters. Shen Changqing belongs to the latter. Among them, the suppressing demon division is divided into 2 occupations. One is the guardian, and the other is the exorcist. Anyone who enters the demon suppression division starts from the lowest level of demon slayer. Then he was promoted step by step, and finally he was expected to become a guardian envoy. Shen Changqing's predecessor was a trainee slayer in the demon suppression division, and he was also the lowest ranked slayer. Has the memory of the predecessor. He is also very familiar with the environment of the town demon division. It didn't take too long. Shen Changqing stopped in front of an attic. Different from other places full of chills in the demon suppression division, the attic here seems to stand out from the crowd, showing a different tranquility in the suppression demon division. At this time, the door to the attic was open and occasionally people came in and out. Shen Changqing just hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. Enter the attic. Circumstances have changed in vain. A burst of ink fragrance mixed with a faint smell of blood rushed towards his face, causing his brows to instinctively wrinkle, but it quickly relaxed. There is almost no way to clean the smell of everyone in Jinmosi. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 501, Extraterritorial Battlefield. The Nine-War Zone, Haoyue Immortal City. In a barren and broken world, human monks are fighting against the demon tide. Kill. Rush up and kill all these demon cubs. On the battlefield, the shouts of killing were soaring. In the crowd, two slender figures were back to back, and they were surrounded by world monsters. Master, what should I do now? Fairy Qi Yao, who was wearing purple spirit armor, looked at Fei Qinxue with despair written all over her pretty face. Since Qi Yao went to Liangjiuan, she wandered around and finally met her master in Haoyue Xianqing. When the two met for the first time in Liangjiuan, the atmosphere was very awkward. After that, Fairy Qi Yao took the initiative to join the team led by Fei Qinxue and became a guard sergeant in Haoyue Xianqing. Today, Qi Yao and concubine Qinxue have served in Haoyue Xianqing for more than 10 years. Over the years, Fei Qinxue has been relying on the insect soldiers donated to her by Qin Daoxian, and has repeatedly made military exploits in Haoyue Xianqing. If it wasn't for Qi Yao's unwillingness to retire, with the military exploits made by concubine Qinxue, she would have ended her service long ago. No way, use insect soldiers. Fei Qinxue glanced at the world monsters that rushed towards the two of them like a tide, and said decisively. Insect soldier is Fei Qinxue and Qi Yao's biggest trump card. Over the years they have never used it unless they have to. But now the two of them have reached the end of the mountain, and if they don't use it, there is only one dead end. Say. Qi Yao quickly took out a gourd-shaped cave artifact, and a large number of golden light-spot insect gourd artifact rushed out. It was the insect soldier. Looking closely, these insect soldiers have already transformed to 3-star level or above after years of fighting and growing. Nowadays, it is as easy as the palm of your hand to kill most of these world monsters who are only at the level of a true monarch. With the addition of a large group of insect soldiers, the form of the battlefield gradually reversed, and the world monsters surrounding Qi Yao and Fei Qinxue were quickly cleaned up by the insect soldiers. The two of them only felt the pressure drop sharply. Feeling the pressure dissipated, Fei Qinxue finally breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing things and thinking about people, she looked at the slaughtering insect soldiers and sighed, I don't know how Qin Lang is doing now. Hearing Master mentioning Qin Daoxuan's name, Qi Yao's movements paused slightly. Obviously, after all these years, Qi Yao still hasn't forgotten the other party. All this was seen by Fei Qinxue. She sighed in her heart, but she didn't say anything after all. He is so strong and his talent is so good, he will be fine. Hearing this, Fei Qinxue was stunned for a moment and smiled. Yes, he must be fine, it's just. She frowned. Recently, the invasion of Haoyue Immortal City by realm demons has become more and more frequent. This is not normal. Qi Yao shook her head. It's not just Haoyue Xianqing. I heard that the main city of our garrison 9th War Zone has been frequently violated recently. Just 3 months ago, the main city encountered a large demon wave. When it comes to the invasion of the world demon, the hearts of both of them are a little heavy. Originally in Fengyun realm, they had never felt the threat of realm demons. Although the sect classics of the Qianyuan sword sect recorded some information about the demons, they were only a few words. It's not like they are now dealing with world demons all day long. Either fighting with the world monsters, or guarding Haoyue Immortal City to prevent the world monsters from attacking the city. For more than 10 years, both of them have become accustomed to the brutality of the battlefield outside the territory. Compared with the extraterritorial battlefield, the battles between the major cultivation forces in the Phoenix Meteor realm are not worth mentioning at all. Cultivation forces are fighting as long as one side surrenders, the other side rarely kills them. But the battle between the human cultivator and the world monster is different. The only loser is death. At least the sergeant of the true monarch level cannot escape the pursuit of the world monster at all. These years, concubine Qinxue and Qi Yao have been able to survive safely, all relying on the cards left by Qin Daoxian. Otherwise, even if concubine Qinxue had Emperor Yuzhong by her side, she would have died many times. When she stepped on the battlefield outside the territory, she knew why Xiao Yuhua was so afraid to serve here in the first place. Guangyuan realm. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it has been 12 years since Qin Daoxian came to Guangyuan realm. Wuha Tianzuan Mansion, the land of the abyss. Qin Daoxian stared at the golden crow shards that were swallowed up by the purple thunder skyfire, and heaved a sigh of relief. Finally caught up. There was a hint of joy on his face. 2 years later, Qin Daoxian finally finished refining all the golden crow fragments he bought from Chuanbao Pavilion. And his purple thunder skyfire has also been promoted from the 1st level tribulation fire to the 3rd level tribulation fire. The span is not too big. Originally, with the mana of his creator Dao Jun, he was able to use the secret technique of Zile Tianhua at will. But as Zile Tianhua was promoted to the third level of calamity, he found that using his mana to use Zile Tianhua became a little unsupportive. However, Qin Daoxian was not discouraged because he knew that once he broke through to the transcendence period, the problem of insufficient mana will be solved. Speaking of which, he can now use the mana of the Dao Jun of the creation realm to activate the Zile Tianhua, or rely on the mana stored by the 7th order high-grade power spirit armor. Otherwise, he can only rely on his own mana reserves, unless he mobilizes the power of the world in the Shenhuang realm. But the power of the world in the Shenhuang realm is easy to consume, but it is very difficult to replenish it, especially when the Shenhuang realm has become a real world. You must know that the current Shenhuang realm is not a barren world. The power of the world can be taken or taken away by Qin Daoxian. Anyway, the world is dead. No matter how it is destroyed, it is still dead. As Qin Daoxian stepped into the third floor of the world, and after the Shenhuang world gave birth to life, its world power could no longer be consumed at will. Because once Qin Daoxian exhausts the power of the world in Xuanhuangji, the world will completely enter the countdown to the end. This is no joke. Therefore, even if Qin Daoxian wanted to borrow the power of the world from the Shenhuang realm, he could only take it easy and couldn't lick wool from the dead, otherwise the backlash would come, and the Shenhuang realm would inevitably become a dead realm. This caused that although Qin Daoxian had broken through to the realm of creation, his mana was not much strong. Even to a certain extent, the mana he can use has become less. Of course, although the mana has not become stronger due to the leap of the Dao realm, his strength is much stronger than that of the world realm. The same mana, the realm of the avenue is different, and the power it exerts is also completely different. Qin Daoxian had a deep understanding of this point when he was in the Zifu period. However, what he is about to face is the selection of the chance to break through the tribulation period. This time he had 6 opponents and all of them like him were Daijins of the creation realm. In other words, ordinary means did not have much effect on these 6 competitors. If Qin Daoxian wants to defeat these 6 competitors and successfully get the spot, he must use his trump card. The Heaven-Shaking Axe is a pure Yang immortal weapon, and it is a pure Yang immortal weapon worth 100 million fortune power. Naturally, it is a big trump card. But compared to the Heaven-Shaking Axe, Qin Daoxian felt that Zile Tianhua, who had been promoted to the 3rd level of Tribulation Fire, was even more powerful. It's not that the power of the Heaven-Shaking Axe is not comparable to that of Zile Tianhua, but that Qin Daoxian cannot fully exert the power of the Heaven-Shaking Axe. But Zile Tianhua is different. As the secret technique of spiritual fire he has painstakingly cultivated, the only advantage of Zile Tianhua is that as long as Qin Daoxian has sufficient mana, he can perfectly exert its power. This also means that as long as Qin Daoxian is willing, he can even break out an attack comparable to the 2nd Tribulation Heavenly Venerate or even the 3rd Tribulation Heavenly Venerate. Of course, whether it was the Heaven-Shaking Axe, the Purple Thunder Sky Fire, or the Insect Soldier in his hand. They are just cards that can be revealed to the outside world. Qin Daoxian's real trump card is only one, and that is the astrology. But the astrology was too involved and Qin Daoxian didn't dare to expose it at all. Although Qin Daoxian had a hunch that after the display of the stars, he had the confidence to compete with the Silver Wing Heavenly Venerate, but so what? Compared with the World Demon, what can a true immortal combat power change? Nothing can be changed. In this case, Qin Daoxian might as well hide his cards. As Wuha Tianzuan said, as the world monsters put more and more pressure on the human race, the probability of traitors appearing in the human race is getting higher and higher. Even though it is clear to anyone with a discerning eye, the world demon cannot be trusted. But how many people can stay sane under the threat of death? Just when Qin Daoxian put Zile Tianhua into the middle dantian, Wuha Tianzun's voice rang in Qin Daoxian's ear. The hour has come. Yes, Tianzuan. Qin Daoxian stood up silently. Beside him, Luoli, who had been by his side all the time, saw Qin Daoxian stand up and hurriedly stood up. Is it time? Luoli was even more nervous than Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian nodded. Let's go together. It is good. Hearing that Qin Daoxian was willing to take her with him this time, Luoli smiled happily. In the past, Qin Daoxian would definitely let her wait here, but this time he was willing to take her with him. This is what makes Luoli the happiest. So, Qin Daoxian rushed to the cave residence of Wuha Tianzuan. With the arrival of him and Luoli, there are a total of 7 monks in front of the cave, that is to say there is only one left and everyone is all together. Qin Daoxian's eyes swept over the 5 pre-selection seeds one by one. To be honest, he didn't pay attention to any of these people. When the strength gap is large to a certain extent, there is really nothing to pay attention to. In Qin Daoxuan's view, this competition for places is more like a transition, but even if it is a transition, he has to come and go. Because this is the rule set by Wuhe Tianzuan. Since he wants to get a place from Wuhe Tianzuan, he must abide by the rules of Wuhe Tianzuan. The last Daojun of Creation Realm also came. Qin Daoxian discovered that the last Daojun of Creation Realm did not live in Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion, but came from outside Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion. This also means that this Daojun of Creation Realm is the descendant of other heavenly venerates. But this is also normal. Although there is no cultivation force behind Wuhe Tianzuan, he will always owe some favors. This pre-selection seed quota is the best way for him to return the favor. On the contrary, it is rare for someone like Qin Daoxian to have a pre-selection seed quota based on Wuhe Tianzun's mentality of supporting the younger generation. With the arrival of the last monk, in front of the cave, a figure suddenly appeared. It was Wuhe Tianzuan. Since everyone is here, I announce that the selection of places will officially begin. Saying that, Wuhe Tianzuan waved his sleeve, and saw a light curtain rushing out from his sleeve. Suddenly the light curtain turned into an upside-down bowl, covering everyone. Except for the use of Dao soldiers, there are no restrictions on other magical weapons and secret techniques. Because there is only one place, who of you are confident can stand in the middle and defend the battle? Wuhe Tianzuan did not arrange a battle, and the method he adopted was very rough. Keep fighting. In other words, one fights six will battle. Without absolute confidence, no one dares to take a step forward. But in this way, it is with Qin Daoxuan's mind, and he doesn't want to play any one-on-one promotion trick. I saw Qin Daoxian fly straight to the center of the light curtain and stand in the sky. He glanced at everyone, raised his hand, and a terrifying purple flame appeared in his palm. In the purple flames, one after another thunder continued to flicker, and it was his spiritual fire secret technique, Purple Thunder Skyfire. Purple Thunder Skyfire. The Daojun of the creation realm present was not an uninformed person, and they all recognized this terrifying flame for the first time. Now, under the control of Qin Daoxian, Zilei Tianhua exudes a terrifying pressure. This pressure, even through the mask clothed by the Five Rivers heavenly venerate immortal artifact, still overwhelms everyone. As a last resort, Wuhe Tianzuan had to strengthen the protection of this mask again, so that the pressure of Zilei Tianhua was not transmitted again. But seeing this scene, how can there be a creation realm Daojun who dares to come? This is Purple Thunder Skyfire. And from the coercion it exudes, it can be seen that this is not a simple one-level catastrophe. In the face of such a terrifying Zilei Tianhua, who would dare to enter? Unless he's crazy. You must know that everyone is the Daojun of the creation realm. With normal fighting methods, everyone can still admit defeat, but under the burning of the Purple Thunder Skyfire, I am afraid there is no chance to admit defeat. Not to mention that they fought one-on-one with Qin Daoxian. Even if everyone went together, they doubted whether they could survive 3 rounds. What is this about? Seeing this, the Daojun of the creation realm who came last had a livid face, and he bowed his hands to Wuhe Tianzuan. Tianzuan the junior abstains. I also abstain. Me too. Hearing that someone abstained, the rest of the creators of the realm abstained. Just kidding, isn't this abstaining from courting death? Seeing that everyone abstained, Wuhe Tianzuan announced in public. Since this is the case, I declare that Qin Daoxian will obtain the opportunity of this Guangyuan Leihai crossing tribulation. Until this moment, no one knew Qin Daoxuan's name taboo. What's even more annoying is that they have never heard of this taboo. Generally speaking, if they can cultivate to the level of Daojun in the realm of creation, they will not have heard of it. There is only one possibility: Qin Daoxian is not from the inner territory. Since it is not the inner domain, it is the people of the Fengyun world. Thinking of this, they can't help but feel even more resentful. The monks of the Phoenix Meteor realm have always been despised by the monks in the inner realm. I didn't expect such a strong man to emerge this time. Although Qin Daoxian simply showed his hand, everyone knew that although everyone was the Daojun of the creator realm, Qin Daoxuan's level of strength was obviously not on the same level as them. After losing to Qin Daoxian, they were convinced. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 502. Guangyuan Realm. One after another tyrannical breath, across an unknown distance, rushed back to Tianzuan Mountain. Tianzuan Mountain, which is usually very deserted, has become extraordinarily noisy today. With the arrival of each Tianzuan or dispatched incarnations, finally, in a Tianzuan mansion located on the top of Tianzuan Mountain, slowly walked out of a top powerhouse of the human race, Gujian Tianzuan. Feel the breath of the ancient sword Tianzuan. All the human race heavenly venerates who rushed back to Tianzuan Mountain all bowed to the location of the ancient sword heavenly venerate. Ancient sword heavenly venerate. Ancient sword heavenly venerate. This ceremony of seeing is full of respect from all the gods to the ancient sword gods. Located on the top of Tianzuan Mountain, the ancient sword Tianzuan wears a gray robe and carries a simple long sword. His face is like a knife and an axe, and he is very resolute. Everyone. The ancient sword Tianzuan spoke slowly, although the sound was not loud, but it entered the ears of every monk in Tianzuan Mountain. It has been more than 476,000 years since I ascended to the true immortal of the human race. During this period of time, my human race has always been weak in the face of the monsters, but fortunately my human race still has the Guangyuan realm, and can continue to give birth to Tianzuan. Coupled with the supreme formation method created by the ancient real immortals for our human race will surely continue. Gu Jian Tianzan's words gave the exhausted Tianzans a trace of comfort in their hearts. Most of these heavenly venerates who took time out of their busy schedules sent their mana incarnations to participate in this grand ceremony. As for their real bodies, most of them were located in the major immortal cities of the human race. It is precisely because of their guarding that the human race has this peaceful place in the inner domain, and the Phoenix Meteor realm can be spared the evil of the demons. It can be said that there are not 100 tribulation monks who stay in Tianzuan Mountain on weekdays, and they are all very powerful Tianzuan. For example, the ancient sword Tianzuan and the silver wing Tianzuan. Because only they have the strength to rush to the major immortal cities of the human race at any time. As for the other 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, without the blessing of the immortal city, it is impossible to compete with the true immortal level world monsters. But it is very difficult to match the world monster with the cultivation of Tianzuan. Heavenly venerates like Gujian heavenly venerate and silver wing heavenly venerate are also the 1 in 100 among all heavenly venerates. They are the peak powerhouses of the human race. In front of Wuha Tianzuan Mansion. Qin Daoxian looked at the ancient sword Tianzuan on the top of the mountain and asked, "Tianzuan, we have come here to cross the tribulation this time, so many monks have come here? Do you think much?" Wuha Tianzuan shook his head and pointed, "I think there are a few people here this time." Few? Qin Daoxian was a little confused. In his opinion, at least half of the monks who rushed back to Tianzuan Mountain this time. Is this less? Wuha Tianzuan seemed to know his thoughts and explained, "Last time Guangyuan Leihai crossed the calamity, but more than 3,000 Tianzuan came. More than 3,000 heavenly venerates?" Qin Daoxian was stunned. "How many gods does my human race have? Not counting your group, there are 3,785. So much." Qin Daoxian was stunned. He never thought that there were so many heavenly venerates of the human race. A lot. Wuha Tianzuan sighed. "Then do you know how many Tianzuan level powerhouses are among the world monsters?" Hearing this, Qin Daoxian was silent. Although he doesn't know how many heavenly venerate level powerhouses there are in the world monster, he knows that there must be more than the human race, and it is a lot more. The real demon world has more resources than the Phoenix Meteor world, and for so many years the real monster world has been swallowing the Phoenix Meteor world, which has caused the strength gap between the two worlds to continue to expand. Even if there is the Guangyuan realm left by immortal Guangyuan for the human race, the Phoenix Meteor realm and the Guangyuan realm together are far inferior to the true demon realm. Seeing that Qin Daoxian didn't speak, Wuha Tianzuan said to himself, "As far as we know, the number of real fairy-level demons in the real demon world is more than the number of my human race." What? Qin Daoxian was almost frightened by Wuha Tianzan's words. The real demon world? How can it be so strong? Yes. Wuha Tianzuan sighed. "In the battle of the ancient times, my human race was doomed to be defeated without destroying the real immortals of the human race. These hundreds of thousands of years are just my human race lingering on. If it weren't for the endless battles within the real demon world, the world demon would have leveled our human race with nothing more than a little effort." If these words were spoken to an ordinary human cultivator, it would probably cause unimaginable confusion. But Qin Daoxian is different. He is about to cross the robbery and become the heavenly venerate of the human race, the top of the human race. He is qualified to know the cruel reality facing the human race. As the saying goes, the sky is falling and there is a tall man on it, and now he is the tall man of the human race. In the past, Qin Daoxian worked hard to cultivate. In addition to making a breakthrough in his own cultivation, he also wanted Uncle 13 Qin Daochu and all the children of the Qin family to have a better life. But slowly, as his strength became stronger and stronger, his thoughts began to change little by little. Especially when he knew that the human race was facing the threat of the world demon, his mood was even more so. He has to do something for the human race, even for the Qin family and the people he loves. He has to do something. All along, Qin Daoxian felt that he was not that great. Especially in the immortal cultivation world of Fengyun world, which is intriguing. All he wants to do is to protect the Qin family and develop the Qin family without much else. But now his mind has changed. If the human race is gone, where can my Qin family go? Qin Daoxian whispered softly. Along the way he has given a lot to his family. Now, the Qin family has indeed become the top immortal cultivator family in the Fengyun world because of him. Qin Daoxian would never allow it. The family he grew up in was destroyed by the world demon. Wuha Tianzuan glanced at Qin Daoxian and smiled slightly. On top of the mountain, Gu Jian Tianzuan saw that all the candidates recommended by Tianzuan had arrived, and announced in public, "This seat is here first, and I wish you all a smooth transition." Thank you, Tianzuan. Including Qin Daoxian, all the selected creation realm Daojun, all bowed to the ancient sword Tianzuan. Gu Jian Tianzuan nodded. I saw him take out a bronze mirror and aim the mirror at the clouds high in the sky. Next moment, under the golden light emanating from the bronze mirror, the cloud layer was immediately peeled off, and within the peeled-off cloud layer, purple thunder and lightning were surging frantically, like a furious sea of thunder. This? Qin Daoxian was stunned by the sight in front of him. He never imagined that such a huge sea of thunder was hidden in the clouds of Guangyuan realm. What's more, he never felt that the power of this thunder sea leaked to the outside world. Just when Qin Daoxian and others were shocked, a figure took the lead in flying towards Lei Hai in the clouds. Tianzuan, who is that? He is the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. Wuha Tianzuan explained. He is the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion? Qin Daoxian secretly remembered this person. But why did he go in? The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, whose cultivation base is at least 7 or 8 robbers, should not grab the opportunity of Daojun of Creation Realm. Wuha Tianzuan shook his head. This matter will be discussed when you return from the tribulation. Go ahead. Qin Daoxian watched one after another flying towards Lei Hai, nodded to Luo Li beside him, and immediately flew in towards Lei Hai. With the last creation realm, Daojun flew into the Sea of Lei. The clouds slowly closed, and the extremely violent thunder sea also disappeared from everyone's eyes. Seeing this scene, the monks present did not leave, they all waited in place. Because next, the human race will give birth to a new batch of transcending tribulation heavenly venerate. Some of these heavenly venerates will become human guards, and if they are lucky, some will even become special heavenly venerates with true immortal level combat power comparable to the ancient sword heavenly venerate. In any case, their appearance is the growth of the power of the human race, and it is worth waiting for the heavenly venerates present. The other side. As soon as Qin Daoxian flew into Lei Hai, he displayed the Dharma image. Immediately, a body of a demon with a height of nearly 10,000 feet appeared in the Sea of Thunder. It's just that, compared with the vast Sea of Thunder, his tens of thousands of feet tall demon god's body is not worth mentioning. The most important thing is that this Sea of Thunder seems to be extremely violent, but it is not full of destructive power like the legendary tribulation, but while destroying his body, it injected a vitality into his body. This is the interference of the world consciousness of Guangyuan world. Seeing this scene, Qin Daoxian is still unclear. This so-called Lei Hai opportunity is exactly the opportunity that immortal Guangyuan left to the descendants of the human race. Think of this. Qin Daoxian couldn't help but admire this real human being who had never met before. This Guangyuan immortal venerable, it can be said that he paid everything for the human race. Even until the death of the body, he still remembers the continuation of the human race. Compared to immortal venerable Guangyuan, the other true immortals of the human race who have ascended to the upper realms seem very insignificant. The other Daojins of Creation Realm also discovered the beauty of Lei Hai, and they all looked excited. No wonder it has always been said that in the Thunder Sea of Guangyuan Realm, the success rate is at least 10 times higher than that of the outside world, and even if the calamity fails, there will be no danger to life. It turned out that the key was that this seemingly very dangerous Lei Hai was actually very docile. With the strength of the thunder slurry in the Thunder Sea, Qin Daoxian could observe other monks while crossing the tribulation. Especially the pavilion owner of the Chuanbao Pavilion. Qin Daoxian was very curious, why did this boss come to Guangyuan Lei Hai with them? But when Qin Daoxian saw the movements of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, he finally knew what he was doing. He's refining an immortal weapon in the Sea of Thunder. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion was sitting on the Sea of Thunder, and when he reached out his hand to fish, the scattered purple thunder fires in the Sea of Thunder were gathered together by him, forming a terrifying large flower. Seeing the Zile Tianhua in front of him condensing and forming, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion began to take out various spiritual materials and refine the pure yang fairy weapon. At this moment, Qin Daoxian finally knew how the fairy artifact of Chuanbao Pavilion came from. It turned out to be refined with the help of the purple thunder skyfire in the Thunder Sea. Moreover, Qin Daoxian could see that the quality of the purple thunder skyfire condensed in this Sea of Thunder was much higher than his purple thunder skyfire. The most important thing is that Qin Daoxian's purple thunder skyfire can't last so long. You must know that refining an immortal weapon is not a day or two but a long time. Although Qin Daoxian has mastered the secret technique of Zile Tianhua, it is still alright to let him fight the enemy. As for the refining tool, Qin Daoxian shook his head. After figuring out the purpose of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, Qin Daoxian stopped paying attention to the other party immediately. Whether it is the inheritance of the technique of refining the fairy tool, or the material for refining the fairy tool, he does not have it now and it is useless to see it. Simply, Qin Daoxian began to fight the calamity with all his strength. There is no specific standard for monks in the creation realm to transcend tribulation, or other tribulation transcending heavenly venerates continue to transcend tribulation. That is to say, the so-called heavenly venerate 1 tribulation and heavenly venerate 2 tribulations depend on the background of the Taoist monarch in the realm of creation. Some creation realm Daojun has a profound background, and maybe he can directly pass through 3 thunder tribulations and become of 3 tribulations. And more creation realm Daojun can only survive 1 thunder calamity, become the most common one. As for the distinction between the first tribulation heavenly venerate and the second tribulation heavenly venerate, there is only one criterion, and that is the degree of magical transformation of mana. The higher level heavenly venerate, the closer the mana is to pure yang immortal. As for the Tao realm, the Tao realm of the tribulation transcendence cultivator is not much higher than that of the creation realm Daojun. The only difference is that the heavenly venerate realm of the tribulation transcendence cultivator will be further expanded, and the world is much more perfect than the cultivator who has just stepped into the creation realm. However, in order to completely transform into a higher level true immortal realm, the cultivator must survive the 9th thunder tribulation. And at this point, no cultivator of the human race can do it. In the Sea of Thunder, Lei Ting was tempering Qin Daoxian's body little by little, and soon, Lei Ting went deep into his Dantian Qi Si. Qin Daoxian can feel that the goal of this thunderbolt is very clear, that is, his mana. As he expected, this thunder pierced into his Danshan Sea of Qi and smashed into his Qi Si with a 10,000 force. Immediately, the mana in the Dantian Qi Si was split into nothingness by this thunder, but the amazing thing was that this thunder did not hurt Qin Daoxian's Dantian Qi Si. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be just right. It seems that this thunder knows the limit of Qin Daoxian's Danshan's Qi Si, and deliberately uses this kind of force to smash him. At this moment, Qin Daoxian realized that Lei Ting in the Thunder Sea just tempered his physical body, not to strengthen his physical body, but to touch his bottom. This Lei Hai seems to be really conscious. Although it does not speak, but everything is so intimate. No wonder Wuha Tianzuan said that the human race did not lack Tianzuan. If it weren't for the constant devouring of the true demon realm for hundreds of thousands of years, which greatly damaged the vitality of the Phoenix meteor realm, the number of heavenly venerates in the human race might really be more than the heavenly venerate level world demons in the true demon realm. Dantian gas in the sea. One after another thunder struck the mana. With the tempering of thunder, Qin Daoxian's mana slowly began to transform. Pure yang breath. Gradually, Qin Daoxian sensed a trace of pure yang in his mana. Seeing this, Qin Daoxian looked happy. The transformation of mana into immortal power is one of the symbols of successful transcendence, and the next step is to transform the soul into pure yang. This level is much more dangerous than mana immortalization. Because in the final analysis, the transformation of mana into immortality is only the tempering of mana by thunder, while the pure yang transformation of divine soul is to use thunder to directly strike his divine soul. Among them there is the most yang zi lei tianhua burning his primordial spirit. You must know that the primordial spirit or the divine soul is originally a yin thing. Usually it is too late for monks to protect it. Where can it be struck by lightning? Isn't that courting death? But from the primordial spirit stage to the transcending tribulation stage, one must go through this hurdle. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 503. Thunder Sea. Surging thunder roams around. Qin Daoxuan's Dantian is full of energy. His primordial spirit sat high above the purple mansion, looking up at the purple thunderbolt that was slashing towards him. Boom! The lightning flashed, and Qin Daoxian only felt that a thorn pierced his soul, and a feeling of excruciating pain hit him. However, his Dao heart was very firm, and he quickly blocked the pain of the soul being tempered by thunder. The only thing to worry about was the limit of the soul. But obviously, the thunder that hit Qin Daoxian was not the same as the thunder that normally robbed. Thunder in the Guangyuan Thunder Sea seems to be conscious. Every thunder can not only temper the soul, but also prevent the cultivator's soul from collapsing instantly, as if someone helped the cultivator to survive the calamity. Of course, Qin Daoxian could feel the heart of this kind of boxing. Immortal Venerable Guangyuan. Qin Daoxian sighed in his heart. Although he had never met this senior before, he owed the other party a great cause and effect. But thinking that the other party has died, maybe this cause and effect will never be repaid. Shaking his head and suppressing the careful thoughts in his heart, Qin Daoxian concentrated on surviving the calamity. Beyond the Sea of Thunder. The top of Tianzuan Mountain. Gujian Tianzuan and Wuha Tianzuan stood together and chatted. Gujian, how many people in this group of little guys can successfully survive the calamity? Gujian Tianzuan thought for a while. 9 times out of 10. Wuha Tianzuan nodded. 89 out of 10. The ratio is almost the same as before, but unfortunately, as the war between the world demon and our human race is getting more and more intense, our newly added Tianzuan is almost unable to keep up with the lost Tianzuan. This is in the past, but something that never happened, you say? Will it? Gu Jian Tianzuan looked at him and said in a deep voice, "You mean that the demon court is about to unify the real demon world?" Wuha Tianzuan nodded. The demon court unifies the real demon world, but sooner or later, you and I know how strong the demon court is. The power they accumulate is enough to sweep the entire real demon world. Wuha Tianzuan had a hard time accepting this fact and couldn't help but say, could it be that the old antiques of the holy ancient demon realm just watch the demon court do whatever they want? You also said that the group of Saint Ancient Demon Realm are old antiques. They have already achieved the status of true immortals and stayed in the real demon realm, but they are only to pay for the cause and effect. Are they still trying to prevent the demon court from unifying the real demon realm? Hearing this, Wuha Tianzuan fell silent. It's no wonder that he is not promising, and he is counting on the infighting of the world monsters to quell the human race's foreign aggression. It is really that the strength of the human race is too far from the world monsters, so big that Wuha Tianzuan can't see any hope of the human race winning. Thinking of this, Wuha Tianzuan sighed and said, could it be? Is my human race just waiting to die? There is no retreat, only a desperate fight. Gujian Tianzuan said calmly. As if thinking of something, Gujian Tianzuan suddenly said, by the way, are you going to prepare for the 8th Thunder Tribulation this time? That's right, just after their group of little guys crossed the robbery. Wuha Tianzuan nodded. Hearing this, Gujian Tianzuan finally had a smile on his face. Congratulations, my human race is about to give birth to another main town guard. Wuha Tianzuan also smiled, but this smile revealed more bitterness. In the Sea of Thunder. Qin Daoxuan's primordial spirit was tempered with thunder after another, the Yin Qi gradually washed away, and gradually revealed a trace of Yang Qi. Pure Yang Qi. Qin Daoxian recognized the pure Yang energy on his Yuanshan at a glance, and the excitement on his face could no longer be concealed. It's finally here. Qin Daoxian couldn't help but said excitedly. The cultivator's ultimate pursuit is nothing more than the transformation of the soul into the sun god, the transformation of the mana into the immortal power, and the transformation of the physical body into the immortal body. It's just that the monks of the Phoenix Meteor realm didn't have the chance to take this last step, causing countless talents to sigh with embarrassment. Although Qin Daoxian is still a long way from this last step, he has finally embarked on the final journey, the road of transforming his soul into a Yang god. Although he is only taking the first step now. But this step is the dream of countless monks. Feeling the pure Yang breath on the primordial spirit, Qin Daoxian knew that from this moment on, he was a genuine transcendental robbery. He did not expect that the realm of transcending tribulation is actually the easiest one to break through in all realms. Do not To be precise, his breakthrough was all thanks to the help of Guangyuan Leihai. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian couldn't help but raise a bolder idea. Since Guangyuan Leihai's opportunity is so rare, why doesn't he work hard and survive several more thunder tribulations? There is no limit to how many times a cultivator can transcend a calamity at a time. It's just that the vast majority of cultivators are in good condition after they have survived a thunder calamity, so there is no room for them to continue to survive the calamity. But Qin Daoxian is different. First, his accumulation is extremely deep. Second, he is now in the sea of Guangyuan thunder, and the damage caused by the thunder robbery to him is minimal. Qin Daoxian is fully capable of overcoming several thunder tribulations. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian's heart suddenly became hot. Being able to transcend several thunder tribulations at a time will undoubtedly save him a lot of time in the future, and it will also make his strength skyrocket after transcending the calamity. Unlike other creation realm Daijins, the strength increase is not obvious when the thunder tribulation has just been completed, and it is necessary to master the fairy weapon or practice the secret operation of the tribulation period to make the strength skyrocket. By the way, the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. Qin Daoxian instantly remembered the first secret method that ran through his entire cultivation career. The Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic has the effect of helping to restore spiritual consciousness. On the surface, it helps cultivators to restore spiritual consciousness, but in fact, it is repairing the spiritual soul of cultivators. It's just that when Qin Daoxian first came into contact with this secret method, his soul had not yet appeared. Even if he restores his soul, he can't perceive it. The only thing he can feel is the effect of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, to restore consciousness. But it's different now. Qin Daoxian's spirit not only manifested, but also combined with Yuan Ying to transform into a higher level Yuan Shin. Therefore, Qin Daoxian learned that the real effect of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic is not for the consciousness but for the soul. Right now, the most important thing in transcending the calamity is the transformation of the soul. Compared with the divine soul receiving the thunder and the mana being tempered by the thunder is nothing. Because most of the monks' mana can withstand the tempering of thunder, Qin Daoxian naturally has no pressure. In the process of cultivating the tribulation, the biggest obstacle is that the soul is tempered by thunder. Although Qin Daoxian has succeeded in transcending the calamity, he is unwilling to just become the heavenly lord of one calamity, and he wants to transcend more thunder calamities. Get in. If Wuha Tianzuan knew about Qin Daoxian's thoughts, he would definitely give such an evaluation. Indeed, Qin Daoxian's current behavior is undoubtedly rash. But he had to go ahead because he could feel that time was getting more and more urgent, and the time left for him or the human race was running out. What? The second thunder tempering, after Qin Daoxian silently recited the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, officially began. Only this time, thunder's tempering intensity is much stronger than the first time. Even in Guangyuan Leihai, Qin Daoxian still felt a piercing pain. Even with the firmness of his Taoist heart, he almost fell, which shows how intense the pain in this soul is. Hear this cry. Many monks who were transcending the calamity looked at Qin Daoxian's direction. Although the sea of thunder is incomparably vast, everyone is a monk who is about to transcend the calamity. With their cultivation base, they can still hear a person screaming wildly in the sea of thunder. One after another divine consciousness glanced over, but Qin Daoxian didn't care at all. He wasn't in the mood to care either. The second thunder tribulation was a notch higher than the intensity of the first one. Sudden bombardment by thunder, Qin Daoxian almost lost his mind. Fortunately, this thunder is still close to splitting his soul, and Qin Daoxian can still persevere. Seeing this scene, Qin Daoxian was completely relieved. Because he knew that every time he suffered a thunderbolt, there would be a lifeline injected into his soul. He didn't know if this was the special benefit of Guangyuan Leihai, or the normal treatment that all cultivators had. In short, this vitality is the confidence for him to survive the second thunder tribulation and even more thunder tribulations. A blast of thunder can only damage my primordial spirit by less than 1/10 at most, but the power of vitality can quickly restore my spirit to its original state, and after this blast of thunder my mana and spirit are pure yang. The breath is even more intense. This discovery immediately made Qin Daoxian full of confidence. In the distance, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, who was concentrating on refining the artifact, heard Qin Daoxian's screams and turned his attention. Will you survive the second thunder calamity? The little guy is really courageous. After saying something casually, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion withdrew his gaze. with his cultivation base of the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, he naturally wouldn't pay attention to a little guy who just passed the tribulation. Even Qindao Shendu Jie in his eyes is only a low-level heavenly venerate, and his strength is far worse than that of a cultivator who has reached the peak of the human race. Naturally, he does not care about it. Compared with Qin Daoxuan's tribulation, the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion is more concerned about the immortal artifact he refined. Not to mention the low-grade fairy artifact. If you are fortunate enough to refine 1 or 2 more mid-grade fairy artifact, then the increase in the strength of the human race may be more effective than adding a few more low-grade gods. Fortunately, Qin Daoxuan's screams only lasted for a short moment and then stopped. His second tribulation has entered the right track. As the time goes, more and more monks successfully crossed the tribulation and began to leave Leihai. Fewer and fewer monks remained in Leihai. In the end, only 3 monks were still struggling, including Qin Daoxian. To be precise, Qin Daoxian is not struggling, he has fully adapted to the thunder-tempering soul at this moment. Compared with the pain of thunder-tempering, he was secretly paying attention to the other 2 human monks. The 2 of them, like him, chose to continue to survive the second thunder calamity. This time, only Qin Daoxian and the 3 of them are still in the calamity of Leihai of Nuada. No, there should be a pavilion master of the Chuanbao Pavilion. But they didn't come to save the calamity. They used Leihai's special environment to refine immortal weapons, which was different from their group of people. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion was feeling that there were fewer people who had survived the calamity, and he could feel at ease, but suddenly found a sense of consciousness swept across him. Seeing this, the pavilion master's eyes narrowed immediately. As soon as he discerned it a little, he knew who was using his divine sense to probe him. Fortunately, the other party still has a sense of proportion only to explore his method of refining the fairy weapon, but not to explore his body. Boy, I think you are very laid back. In Qin Daoxuan's ear, a loud voice sounded. Senior, forgive me, the junior is just a temporary itch. Qin Daoxian quickly apologized. Oh. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion was a little interested. Are you also an artifact refiner? I was lucky enough to know a little bit of superficial artifact refining, but I don't know how much worse it is compared to the senior's refining of immortal weapons. Hearing this bragging, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion nodded. This is not flattering. As the number 1 refiner of the human race, any refiner is garbage in his eyes. What he is more interested in is that Qin Daoxian can survive 2 thunder tribulations in a row at one time, and it is so easy. Obviously, he is a cultivation seedling with excellent talent. There are very few people of this kind of cultivation genius who are still interested in refining tools. Because geniuses like this are generally not short of magical tools, there is no need to study the art of refining tools. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion can become the number 1 refiner of the human race, all based on interest. Otherwise, with his background, there is no need to delve into the art of refining, and he only needs to concentrate on improving his cultivation and strength. As for the magic weapon and even the fairy weapon, the forces behind him can do it for him. However, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion did not. When his cultivation base was still low, he showed great interest in refining tools and put in practical actions. At the beginning, when he devoted himself to studying the art of refining, he was severely opposed by his father, but he did not care about his father's opposition at all, and he insisted on it resolutely. Now that I think about it, if it wasn't for his original persistence, the human race would not have the ability to refine immortal weapons at all. Because now in the entire human race, he is the only one who has the ability to refine immortal artifacts. After chatting with Qin Daoxian at will, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion stopped talking and concentrated on refining his fairy artifact. As for Qin Daoxian wanting to see it, let him be optimistic. In the view of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, he did not have a profound knowledge of refining tools, and even if he taught it by hand, the other party would not be able to understand a little bit of refining fairy tools. If refining an immortal weapon is so simple, then he is not the only one in the entire human race who has the ability to refine an immortal weapon. I do not know how long it has been. The remaining 2 monks couldn't hold on either, so they chose to leave Leihai. It is worth mentioning that among the 2, only one of them successfully survived the second thunder calamity. But in the end, he still didn't survive the second thunder calamity. However, in this way, when the other party survived the second thunder calamity in the future, his confidence was much higher than that of the other heavenly venerate 1 tribulation, and it was not a gain. As for Qin Daoxian, he naturally survived the second thunder tribulation smoothly. Just when he was about to survive the third thunder calamity, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke again. Boy, if you really want to study the way of refining weapons, you can come to the old man's mansion and ask me for advice after Lehi. You don't have to hurt your foundation in order to attract the attention of the old man. Obviously, the pavilion master of the Chuanbao Pavilion regarded Qin Daoxuan's continued tribulation as something that attracted his attention. In this regard, Qin Daoxian said a little embarrassedly, "Thank you for your concern, senior, but Junior really wants to take this opportunity to survive several more thunder tribulations." 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.